Gentlemen, we are recording. This is the We Hope Gwyneth is Listening podcast. I am Steve. No, I am not Steve. I am Toby.
Oh, I was going to be Toby. I was so excited.
Oh, no, let's do it again.
Who knows who I am?
No. All right. We're going to keep that in. Okay. This is the... Wait. Sorry, I thought I had it.
Actually, you're doing a very good Steve right now, actually. This is the...
This is the most ambitious crossover in podcast history.
Whoa! There we go. This is the We Hope Gwyneth is Listening podcast. I am Toby. This is Steve. We have a special guest with us already.
We do.
Joe Kelly.
Hello.
Friend of ours from the Cinema Studies department here at Oakland University. We are right now. We're outside at. It is dark. What time is it now? 9:35. 9:35. Yeah. So, by the time you listen to this will be the third episode. We have the second half of the first episode we did. Where we talked about two films, and this is the thing I'm going to do now. I have unforced errors I made during the podcast. So I'm going to correct now.
Oh my gosh, we have redactions.
How respectable.
I was going to say that's already we're like a pretty good podcast. So few do this.
So when we talk about Shape of Water,
yes,
there is the two producers who got the Oscars when they won Best Picture. That was Guillermo del Toro and his partner. I couldn't remember his name. His name is J. Miles Dale.
Okay.
So that's the other producer.
Are you taking notes, Gwyneth?
Hi, Gwyneth, by the way.
Oh, yes. Hi, Gwyneth.
You know, these guys take responsibility for their mistakes. I really appreciate it.
With great power, there must also come great responsibility.
There must also come.
And also, Gwyneth, we're going to talk about a movie you're in recently, so...
Get excited, get hyped.
This is what this episode's about. I talked about the dry for wet technique that the movie does, because the movie was only produced for $19.3 million. So
which is still boggling my mind.
Right, so they didn't have a lot... They didn't have a lot of room to do a lot of underwater work. So I made a mistake. I said all of it was. Not all of it was. There was some tank work.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know. I've listened to that podcast. My voice. Did you hear how skeptical I was?
No, like a good chunk of it was dry. I don't know if you know the dry for wet technique, Joe.
Not quite.
Okay, so basically, you've seen Shape of Water, I assume? Okay.
Oh, no, sorry, I have not seen Shape
of Water. Oh, okay, so...
I'm familiar, I've not seen it.
Okay, I was going to say, well, we talked about it in the podcast, but it is not just a fish fucking movie, but... it's a fish fucking movie, yes. Allegories, depth, nuance.
Yes.
No, but there's a lot of scenes that take place underwater, and sometimes when a movie doesn't have the budget to do underwater tank work, they will do a technique with, like, strings and wind and color filters to make it look like underwater, but it's not. It's basically you're in a sound set and they make it look like underwater.
Okay,
so in the lamest terms I can make it, that's basically what dry for wet is.
It's not like tank technique stuff. Like,
right.
Okay.
So they did do some tank work, and according to IMDb, Sally Hawkins did some tank work one day, and then the next day in the same studio, she had to do tank work for Paddington 2, apparently.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very ambitious.
I really hope that's not spoilers for the not safe for work Paddington sequel.
I hope. Good point.
I hear those movies are actually like fantastic.
I've heard too.
The first one, like, it came out, and all I remember was seeing critics write about it, like, this is good? Question mark?
Yeah, like
why is this happening?
Like a fantastic family film, and
then the second sequel was like, no, this is legit good.
Yeah, like this is somehow better, and I'm like, what is happening with Paddington?
Right.
Okay.
And then the last unfortunate error I'm going to fix here is the Black Panther co-writer. I couldn't remember his name, but it's Joe Robert Cole. So he wrote it with Ryan Coogler. Okay. And again, those two wrote a fantastic movie.
They did.
Which was the last movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe before Avengers Infinity War.
Dun, 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 dun.
Directed by Joe and Anthony Russo brothers. Yeah. Stars everyone basically
in the world. Basically,
everyone who's been in the Marvel movies
and
since
Peter Dinklage.
And Peter Dinklage, who's new to the Marvel Cinematic family.
He is new.
Yeah.
That's the only new character they introduced aside from like the family of Thanos.
Right. Besides the Black Order. So
it's a when he showed up in the film, like if you didn't know he was in it, like I did, the reaction is what I would call equal measures surprise and non-surprise.
I'm surprised people didn't know he was in the movie because, again, he's in the poster. He's like his credits, and that's something we talked about as well.
We were speculating.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't pay too hard. Like, I wasn't scanning for details. Like,
okay.
It's one of those movies where your brain kind of almost turns off a little because you're like, well, it's an inevitability. I'm seeing this film. I don't need to go further on it.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like, he's an actor who showed up, and you see that, and you're like, well, yeah, of course Peter Dinklage showed up in here. Like you don't get as far as you do in Game of Thrones and not be handed a role at some point.
I mean,
that's true.
That's valid.
I mean, hell, Emilia Clarke's going to be in the Solo movie, so.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
And yep. So anyway, Infinity War.
Infinity War starring Gwyneth Paltrow.
Starring Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, sorry. I should also mention, it was Sunday. I watched all of Iron Man 3 recently.
Ah. Yeah. Okay.
Not bad.
All right.
Because I've always watched I think I told you this before. I've always watched the second half. I never watched the first half with the kid and all that stuff.
Right.
Kid wasn't bad. I liked the first half.
I love the first half of the movie.
Same kid from Jurassic World, yeah. The younger brother.
Yes.
I'll take your word for it. I did not see that movie.
He's better in Iron Man 3.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. I don't know. Like Jurassic World was exactly what Jurassic World wanted to be, and good for them. I guess.
As someone, and I know the treatment of the Mandarin is a really decisive notion in that movie. And as someone who's been an Iron Man fan since I was a kid and loves the Mandarin, I don't have a problem with it. Like, it works. Again, this is something I'm going to bring up when we talk about Infinity War, but within the scope of the movie, what they're doing, I think it works wonderfully. But I also think they could do a legit Mandarin as well.
I think the problem for me was that they were building up Ben Kingsley's Mandarin in a way that was really interesting. And to the point where they're like teasing this, and eventually I was expecting, because like straight up just modern day terrorist.
Yeah.
Very fascinating, very interesting the way his videos were edited together. Very harrowing, very dark, very threatening.
Yeah.
An interesting foil for Iron Man, who's always had to basically fight people in armor. How would he fight this guy who is like hidden behind shadows? And then they kind of like pull the rug out from you, and it's like it's a twist that works for some people, and it just didn't work for me because I felt like they were teasing something and then they didn't deliver on it.
Well, in fairness to the terrorism, like modern terrorist aspect of it, though, that is a heavy part of Iron Man 1.
That's true.
That is a heavy, like Afghan war, Afghanistan, Iraq war, like terrorism, like political undertones.
Right.
And as someone who loves the Mandarin character, I would love to see the 10 rings in power, or on a screen. But it's like, again, I think it works for what this was doing. And again, and to the person we're actually doing this podcast for, Gwyneth, you kicked ass in this movie.
Gwyneth, you were great in Iron Man 3.
You were.
I think that was your shining Iron Man moment.
I mean, the steel beam to Guy Pearce's face, excellent stuff.
It was great.
With the Mandarin as well, that's probably one of the more interesting aspects of the movie in terms of surprises that you're going to get.
Right.
But looking back on it, I think you do have somewhat of a missed opportunity, particularly add to it all the controversy they created with Doctor Strange and the Ancient One being, the Celtic, white woman instead of like a traditional Tibetan character, which a lot of people would probably speculate it because we have to sell this movie in China, and China isn't always happy with Tibet.
Right.
But I think it kind of wastes a really interesting opportunity now in hindsight, in terms of all the discussion about representation, that we have this character of the Mandarin who is playing a problematic representation of either traditionally an Asian character or now a Middle Eastern character, to have that be the reverse of the traditional representation and have this character be shown to be a really weak and frail English man is kind of an interesting parallel to
That's true. That's
because
true.
it's
that
interesting.
representation problem.
Because Ben Kingsley half Indian, half English, and then you have Guy Pearce is Australian. So it's really interesting how that kind of the scope of the character, the actors who are playing him.
It's a potential I don't think they really realized they had on their hands.
The manager's a great, and that's something we're going to talk about as well, villains as well. But the manager's a great villain. I think it could be done. I think it could be done today.
Oh yeah, no, he's a fantastic villain. In the modern day, they found a way to make him work.
Yeah.
In comics.
Oh yeah.
I think. And we're getting to Infinity War. I
promise.
I do get what you mean, that the reveal, because the reveal of his character in the movie, it feels really underwhelming, and that it feels very. I was a nerd that was spurned by Tony Stark when he was a cool guy. now I'm mad.
Now I'm.
He was,
and that was another
because
thing.
the jock made fun of me.
Oh, that's the plot of. That's the plot of Batman Forever. That's what happened when Jim Carrey and the Riddler. It's like, oh, I loved you, Bruce Wayne. You ignored me.
And Amazing Spider-Man 2.
In many other movies, particularly like of the 80s, the Mandarin would have been a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tony Stark would have been a villain.
Yeah.
But
that's
not how it is.
Okay, so Infinity War.
Now,
and I mean that solely, by the way, in terms of their archetype.
Yes, yes.
I'm just like,
no, we got it. Yeah.
I don't want to condone the Mandarin's activities.
his actual terrorist organizations.
Infinity War. What were you gonna say?
I am not sure how to, because like what we do here on, we hope Gwyneth is listening, is we talk about films that we like and that we dislike, and we try to discuss them as critically and analytically as we can while still having fun with the podcast. I'm not sure how, because I've been reading a lot of reviews from reliable, very noteworthy sources like New York Times and stuff like that, and they're talking about it as a film. Like a standalone film.
Okay, sorry, can I cut you off real quick?
Yes.
I think it's the same thing we have to do for Wonder Woman, to a degree, where we have to talk about this as a film, and we have to talk about it as not
as
a film.
an event.
Yes, as an event, because that's what this film. Yeah, I know when we talked about it right off the bat when we watched it, I know internally I was kind of having trouble talking about the film because, and someone else mentioned this as well. Like this film, I think it was Tom Lorenzo. Fashion blog, but like this film, you can't really talk about this film as a film because it doesn't almost work as a film.
Well, it's
to a lot of degrees.
To a lot of degrees, unless you consider the main character being Thanos, in which case he does have a beginning and end arc.
Yeah.
But in terms of everyone we're supposed to root for,
well, not even that,
decades worth.
Right, not even that, but it's just like as far as just like aesthetic, just as far as pacing, just as far as tone, just as far as writing. It's like there's a lot of things going on here that's like, okay, this works for this movie, but if you take it as a movie that we talk about, it's kind of hard to discuss, but we're gonna try to do it anyway.
This film also, like, it's hard to remove it from context because it opens on the conclusion to another film.
Right, completely.
Like it ends the actual events of the previous film.
And this is a sequel to like at least 3 other films.
It's a sequel to Ragnarok. It's a sequel to Guardians 2. It's a sequel to Civil War.
Sequel to Black Panther. And Black Panther.
Yeah, a little bit of Black Panther.
A little bit of Black Panther.
It doesn't tie too much into Black Panther. It more like, because the events of Black Panther don't strongly affect this movie.
No, but at least we see them again in the set in Wakanda.
The characters are highly involved.
Okay, so right off the bat, well, Joe, since you're the guest, did you like the film?
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed the film.
Oh, sorry, I should say this is spoilers. We're going to be really spoiler heavy for this, so there's some people.
Extraordinarily huge spoilers for Avengers Infinity War.
Please be careful.
All right, I think we're good. I just proclaimed it to the heavens.
Yes. Okay, so Joe, your quick thoughts about the movie right off the bat.
God, that is an ending that is so strong. If you don't know anything about release schedules or announced films.
Go ahead, no, keep going.
Only because like it's like you get hit with so many emotional gut punches, like, oh shit, villains won, shit's happened. And if you like know the films that have been announced, you're like, okay, well, somehow this is coming out. And you're already in your head thinking really hard about the gymnastics, like how they're gonna do that. And like you'd think that otherwise, but it feels so concrete here that it removes a little bit of emotion in terms of the gut punch, but it does add an intrigue.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was talking about this on Twitter to another critic. I was thinking, like, I don't know how real that is if you don't know the release, because as in depth and as overwhelming as nerd and geek culture is now, I think fans know these movies are coming out.
Oh, yeah.
I think the majority of these fans
I would say it's
almost unavoidable.
I stand by the point I make, but I would submit that the legwork required to get that knowledge is much lower than it's ever been.
Yes.
Especially if
going
into this movie, a movie that is for diehard MCU fans.
Very much so.
And if you're a diehard MCU fan, you know the slate for the next.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I feel like, and someone mentioned like they said like
I feel even casual fans.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel so because the critic I was talking to, I forget their name right now, unfortunately, but the critic I was talking to, like, I don't think casual fans know the release schedule of all these movies. It's like, I don't think that's true, especially in our pop culture society. I can't imagine. Maybe there may be some people who don't know off the bat, but it's like I would imagine you're sitting in there watching that movie. Yeah, you get the emotion, but at the same time you're thinking like, oh, this is Marvel. Of course there's more movies.
Yeah.
Not
like
only
they just got Spider-Man back. Of course he's going to be in another movie.
They've developed one of the most efficient money-making trains in the film history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're not just going to let it die.
Right.
They're going to keep it going somewhere.
I mean, they should, but they're not. But look,
no, I don't think they should. I had a bunch of things to say, Gwyneth.
Well, I'm happy to be on Google.
So Steve, since you and I watched together, and we watched it this past Saturday.
Yes.
Has your opinion changed about the movie, or has it changed at all? Positive, negative?
The things that when you take a step back, when you're out of the film and you think about the logistics, there are some things that don't work. That's for any movie. If Gwyneth, you know me, I'm a big fan of Back to the Future. Take a step back and think about that movie for 10 seconds and it all falls apart.
There's a fantastic John Mulaney bit about it.
Oh, no, it's a lazy John Mulaney bit. It's the obvious stuff. It's the obvious stuff, Mulaney. But no, but like...
Well, I guess it depends on what you call fantastic. It's certainly entertaining.
Our sister podcast, we hope John Mulaney's listening.
John Mulaney is fantastic. He's one of
I'm sure if John Mulaney heard that, he'd be like, yeah, I had a great weekend when I didn't spend it writing a different bit.
That's true. Okay, anyway, pass my regards on to John Mulaney. No, to me, I'm just impressed the same way, almost like doubly so, how they pulled off Avengers. Because this is a movie that shouldn't work.
Yeah.
And we know this because so many other franchises have tried to get to this point and failed. They can't. The Dark Universe didn't get out the gate.
Right.
And
that is the definition of dead on arrival.
Straight up.
They had a trailer for this universe that people were like,
no, we don't.
Bold,
we don't
bold,
want
sir.
it. We don't want it. And then they released photos of the cast.
They beat Ruth very hard.
But so what I like, because like you go into this movie and it doesn't hold any hands. It throws you in immediately. The cold open of this movie is the end of Ragnarok. If you don't know. Like, if you haven't seen Ragnarok, or if you haven't seen, like, the first Avengers movie, you're like, what the fuck is happening? Who is this person? Why do I care that these two people just died? Yeah. This guy's purple. This is a stone inside of a brick? What's happening? And then, there's so many movies you need to have seen, unlike Avengers, which, you go back, you watch that movie, they set everyone up really nice. You can watch Avengers on its own. With this, it's like...
This starts immediate res. This starts like you said, like the Ebony Maw, one of those soldiers for the Black Order, Thanos' Black Order, he's stepping over corpses. Yeah. Like, that's how the movie starts. Like, that's how it starts. Right from the gate.
Well, actually, technically, it starts with an emergency broadcast from an Asgardian ship.
Oh, that's true.
And everyone's like, if you haven't seen any other movie, what the fuck is an Asgardian ship? Also, this Ebony Maw.
Well, even if you'd seen Thor, if you hadn't seen Ragnarok, you'd be like, an Asgardian ship?
Yeah,
what?
why are they?
A ship?
Yeah, but like I said, like you can't.
It opens on a failure. It opens on a strong failure.
But the whole movie is, like you were saying after we watched it, it's just a home run for Marvel.
Sure.
They're showing off at this point.
Oh, it's the lap. They've done the home run. Now they're just walking.
Now they're just
walking. They're waving running. At everybody.
Right.
Yeah, they're taking their sweet
They went down to the dugout. They come back and they do the wave to the crowd.
They do the wave and they're like, hey,
it's Babe Ruth walking the bases, eating a Babe Ruth.
Right.
Just calmly walking. Like,
but like, I appreciate that so much because this is the most comic booky movie we've gotten. I could argue
absolutely.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
And it feels earned. And that's what I like about it, is that, and I think that's why so many critics are confused as to how to review this movie, because it really is a commitment. And I typically, if you have to do your homework before you see a movie, I've always been of the notion of that's a failure of a movie.
Right.
But with this, it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
In the sense that this has never happened in film before. Really?
Especially in the scale. No, I'm glad you mentioned that this is the most comic book movie it is, because I feel like that's good. I think it's true for good and bad.
Yeah.
I feel like the more I thought about this movie, the more I almost can't stand it.
Yeah.
And that's probably a little harsh, but I feel like this movie is not good on a lot of levels.
Okay.
And I feel like Thanos is I feel like Thanos is the best and worst part of this movie.
Interesting.
I don't know if you had I'll go more, but I don't know if you had anything else to say.
Please, I would like to hear more about that.
Like, this is something we talked about when we came out. Like, it's interesting. I love Thanos. He's one of my favorite characters in not only comic books, but in fiction in general. Like, he's so multifaceted and he's so unique as a character. I'm going to say something. Well, okay, first, I'm going to step back from Thanos. I want to say something that's maybe going to piss you off, and I don't mean to.
Go ahead.
I don't like Spider-Man in this movie.
Really?
He doesn't do anything.
Spider-Man is my favorite, like, Marvel hero. Spider-Man: Homecoming was one of my favorite MCU movies.
We like that one a lot.
In that, I talked to my friend. They're like, "What was your favorite movie of like Phase 3 so far?" And I was like, "God, Black Panther is like the best one." But I can't deny how much I love Spider-Man for how exactly it was what I wanted to see on it. Like, I haven't wanted to see an adaptation on screen be so much of what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so that was phenomenal. And I will agree, once you get to the end of it, he really didn't feel like he did much besides be there.
I feel like the only reason he's there is I feel like the only reason he's in the movie is for that last scene with Tony Stark.
I feel like he's there to explore the emotional development of Tony Stark. It's a person who's learned responsibility. And
that's true too.
It's there to see Tony Stark cry when he goes away.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like the last sentence, like that's it. And it's like I like the Spider-Man armor for sure. Like don't get me wrong, but it's
Spider
like,
armor is great.
Yeah, but other than that, it's
I like how it has
as
Dr. Octopus arms. Like it's kind of superior Spider-Man a little bit.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
No, it's the Iron Spider outfit that he had in Civil War.
From Civil War.
Yeah, but it's like every Civil War comic book. Sorry.
Well, it's also just a little underwhelming because so much of the emotional impact of or rather like the narrative impact of the end of Homecoming is Tony Stark being like, you know what, fuck it, you did a good job, here's your sticker on your paper, take the spider suit and run with it. And Peter looks at himself, looks at what he's done, and acknowledges like, I'm not ready for that, I fucked up. And that's a really powerful moment for that character. So for this movie with Spider-Man to open up just to be like, oh shit got real, fuck it, here's the suit.
Yeah, I feel like Spider-Man is almost a prism for me this entire movie where nothing in this movie matters. Nothing happens. And the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, what is there to grasp really? And I feel like Thanos is at the center of that. Okay. I'm gonna say another thing that's kind of weird, or might be offsetting or whatever. It's weird, and again, I use this term kind of loosely. It's weird that made Thanos a good guy.
I agree.
It's weird that made him nice, especially compared to how he is in the comics. I don't want to make this comparison to the comics and the movies, even though I'm going to do that a lot. I kind of have to. Okay. But at the same time, it's like just thinking not just the 18-issue run that Donny Cates just finished, the limited series, which is fantastic, by the way. One of the best comics I was out recently. But if you just look at the publication history of Thanos, how devastating he is, how ruthless he is, how manipulative and scheming he is, this Thanos is almost like a nice guy. And I told you this when we came out. It's interesting how they gutted the character and then made him fit within this universe of what he is in right now. But the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, and this is something I'll talk to you a little bit more, but it's just like, if we were adapting Infinity Gauntlet, the story, not Thanos Quest, but he already has a gauntlet. He's talking to Mephisto. He's God, and then you go to that entire run of the series, and then when he loses, he becomes a farmer. If you're adapting that story, I think you would have to do it'd be insane to do one movie. You have to do two. Right. I think the cutoff point is where the cutoff point is now, where you erase half the universe, and then you go from the next half. The problem with that is, and this Thanos says he's done his mission. Yeah. So, and again, this is something we talk about a lot. What else is there next? What's his motivation now?
I also think a huge part of why this might stick out especially sorely is that we just saw a character similarly to this in terms of Black Panther, and that you have a character at the end of the movie who is certainly not nice but is ruthless, but you feel compelled to be like, in light of the cultural context, this character has a point in Black Panther. Like, his motive has, like, it is charged by understandable motivation in terms of, like, a desire to violently revolt against oppressors.
Mm-hmm.
And Thanos feels very similarly in that it feels like they're doing a lot of legwork to try and make him morally complex, or at least make the viewer feel different about his goal. Not necessarily think it's okay, but to think, like, obviously, like, at no point in the movie do they ever really question his methods are wrong or villainous. Characters,
Yeah, they basically make him Jor-El to a degree.
Yeah.
a little bit.
And it's interesting because Killmonger has, and maybe this is the depth of Ryan Coogler's directing and his writing with Robert Cole. But when you watch Killmonger, it's like, I get it, I understand his point.
Right.
There's depth and a nuance there. With Thanos, it's like, oh, I needed to kill half the universe. It's like, why though? Again, because I feel like if you take out Mr. Death, which they did, there's a lot that you lose the motivation of.
Right. I guess to me it was. I did not come prepared to defend this movie, Toby.
What? You know me in superhero movies,
No,
man.
I know. I guess I just assumed we were on the same page. But all right, let me buckle down and defend this movie.
Yeah, you're familiar with Marvel. You should be prepared to be a defender. if
Yeah, I
need be.
know.
I don't know if you just don't like Netflix all that much, but
Defender. That was a bad miniseries, and we all know it. I guess because I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how the motivation, and this is something that's going to piss you off.
Mm-hmm.
The motivations for him trying to impress Mistress Death don't work in this universe.
No, and that's something we talked about before. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, listen, it sucks I don't get Mr. Death in this movie. It would be amazing.
Trust me, Toby. We're on the same page there.
It's like, why can't you put Mr. Death in? We got 3 Thor movies. You can't give me Mr. Death?
Was there a part where, when Red Skull showed up, part of you hoped?
A little bit.
No.
Like, maybe.
No, I didn't know.
You felt confident.
No, I felt confident. Well, we'll talk about it later. The Red Skull thing was dumb.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
I thought that was such a needless cameo.
That's the one part where
Also,
I'm
that was
like,
not Hugo Weaving.
No, it was some Walking Dead guy.
Yes.
Which is even more disappointing because it's like, not only is it such a needless cameo, but it's a needless cameo with the character who is not the actor who played the character.
And not only that, considering how large the cosmic universe is in Marvel, that could have been anybody.
And I think they did it just because people kept asking, "Where's Red Skull?" And they're like,
gives a
"Fine,
fuck?
fucking here's Red Skull. Stop asking."
Were there people under the like?
Yes.
I think most people would have just assumed, hey, Red Skull was alive.
No, but
more than half a century ago.
Do you remember? Because
I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
know.
he just eroded.
Yeah, like
You would hope
he
so.
died.
Yeah.
You could have just said that too.
Right.
But do you remember at the end of Avengers where Thanos turned around and some people were like, "Is that Red Skull?"
Yes.
Did you ever get that?
I did.
What the?
Yeah.
Well, that actually does make his line at that teaser feel a little like an odd nod to fans, because like his line and what Thanos gets so happy about is they're like, hey, to fuck with the Avengers is to court death, and he has a little chagrin, and it's like, oh, you're like, oh, Lady Death, and you're like, but no, she doesn't exist, so he's just smiling.
As much as we know, it would be dumb if they introduced her in the second movie. I feel like Gamora's spirit is going to be the one that's nagging him and kind of his emotional center.
Can I ask about Gamora too? I don't believe that relationship at all.
Oh no, me neither.
Oh, this feels very forced. This feels so out of nowhere.
Right.
I agree
and again,
with that.
Josh Brolin and Zoe Saldana, they sell the hell out of it. But again, with this Thanos, why does he care so much about Gamora?
See, here's the thing that bothers me, and I thought about in the movie.
Yeah.
It bothers me that they, like, as you said, like, Thanos is a nice guy, in that this movie continually asserts to you that Thanos genuinely cares for Gamora and loves Gamora, despite treating her and Nebula like abject shit.
Yeah.
Like weapons.
Actively abusing them, like actively being an abusive father to them. And this movie is telling you, oh, but he actually loves her.
Yeah.
Like, it asserts that love, even though he's super shitty to them, is real.
Which is like, why? Like,
It's
where does
really
that?
weird.
Because like the
that-
one thing, all right. So there's 2 points.
It's
There's
confirmed
2
by
points that are
magic,
solid.
Steve.
Yeah,
It's confirmed by magic.
No. But the one thing that didn't make me believe it, and that whole scene, because I saw it a second time, that whole scene where it's like he's dragging her to the thing.
Yeah.
I thought the movie the second time was an awesome pace. I still didn't feel the 2.5-hour runtime. That one scene.
Can we pause to just say, I don't know if you have, Toby, but I will say that, at least for me, Steve has a leg up here in that he has seen it twice.
Sure.
So like that I will.
Doesn't matter. Go ahead. It doesn't. It doesn't.
It gives you a little more time to see visuals and connect thoughts with active visuals.
But I will say that
Not for the movie.
him grabbing Gamora and dragging her and throwing her up was so drawn out.
Yes, it was.
Especially because needlessly so, and especially because earlier on in the movie, he was talking about her like. She's like, you abused me and you hit me and you did all this horrible, shitty stuff and you treated me like garbage. And he's like, and yet you are the strongest woman in the galaxy.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the reason why he adopted her was to turn her into this weapon. And then he really honestly feels for her to the point where
and then not only
that,
like, why did he take her in the first place? It's just a girl in the village. Like, why?
Yeah, I don't know.
That is very true. That scene, he seems to be like... The only qualification I would give is that Thanos does make the remark to Tony that I see you two have been burdened with knowledge. Mm-hmm. And it seems in a very Greek tragedy or Greek like myth way, he has a prophetic knowledge of, which is probably to some degree where his understanding and motive comes from, and like his whole spiel of this is all going to go to shit. So there, like, granted, I don't think the movie is properly doing its job if this is the conclusion we're supposed to reach, but there's certainly an implication that actions that are taken at random may be inspired by a sort of not quite omnipotent, but like future knowledge.
Yeah, is it
prophetic knowledge that he has?
No, that's true. I remember someone had the funny ass tweet I saw where it's just like, if he has the Infinity Gauntlet, he's worried about finite sources. Why don't you just give everyone infinite sources?
Yep.
It's just like,
God, what the hell am I gonna do with this reality gem?
Right.
No, but I think that comes down to that's what makes him mad. He is still the Mad Titan. He's talking about, I suggested to my planet, hey, we kill half the people, and then our resources grow. And they're like,
for some reason, they seemed really upset about it.
They didn't like it for some reason. And I think the reason why he's so focused on his mission, he's so focused on, I need the gems so I can do this one thing that I set out to do. Mm-hmm. And he's not thinking about other options.
No.
I think that's what, that didn't bother me as much, because a lot of people have brought that up since my second time seeing it. And that didn't bother me because he seemed like he was just like a madman on a mission to do this one thing, and everything else. Is
as far as like the title "Mad," that makes sense. Mm. But it's like, again, I'm just focused on the fact, like, if you take away all his motivations, you make him more of the sympathetic character. Which again, I understand what this series does, and that's honestly maybe one of the inherent vices of this entire series. I'll get into later, but again, now I'm just thinking, like, what's next now forward, and
I will also say, like, this might not be as much of a problem if, like, so we introduce his backstory as, I tried to tell my planet this plan, they refused because they said it was crazy, but I was right. It might be more interesting if Thanos is, like, because in that, it seems to imply Thanos' whole deal is, I'm the only person being logical. Everybody is
he says that in the movie.
Yeah. See, he says that, yet he's also burdened and blinded by emotion or not blinded necessarily, but he's burdened with emotion with, like, Gamora. And he has, like, the movie has heavy emphasis on him, like, crying over Gamora, dealing with Gamora and stuff like that, and he gets angry, and he feels, like, weirdly conflicted in that. Sometimes he feels like he's driven by logic, but other times emotion, like, comes through in a way that feels a little muddied.
Yeah.
It feels muddied.
Very muddied.
Not necessarily completely unrealistic, but it feels a little unfocused.
I guess to me, he just strikes me as a narcissistic sociopath who thinks, Gwyneth.
Look, we know you're upset. We will get to the praise.
I don't know what kind of fucking amateur hour this is. I don't know who needs help so badly that they're interrupting our broadcast to Gwyneth Paltrow.
Well,
it'd be funny if it's just cut off right there.
Does Pepper Potts not become rescue? Maybe she's saving someone.
Oh, maybe that's true.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Certainly would be.
Where was I going?
I don't know.
I was saying something. Oh, fuck me, Gwyneth.
I hate when this happens, when we do this a lot.
Fuck me with a J-bag, Gwyneth.
I wanna bring up the Infinity Gauntlet. Because...
I think we might want to talk about that in terms of this film.
Because...
You may call it a MacGuffin.
Oh...
Yeah, that's completely what it is. Yeah.
The whole movie's a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
but
then it's great.
No, I'm not going
to be the optimist in this podcast.
If I may,
did you not know you're going to be the optimist in the entire?
I'm never the optimist, Toby. This is fun. I should be optimistic more often.
For these movies, you are the optimist.
I honestly feel strangely appropriate that I showed up because I do feel like I'm in a slight bit of a middle ground.
You're kind of like this cool devil's advocate for both of our arguments.
But
which is great because I love doing that in arguments.
No, I want to bring up the Infinity Gauntlet because. So after
really briefly before we get too far away from it to come back, I did want to just my one thing with Thanos and like your whole point on his motivation and why I started talking about Black Panther and the reason why I said it might be more bothersome now to see his motivation because they've already played with the like, hey, maybe the bad guy, like maybe we should listen to the bad guy, like their methods are wrong, but we should listen to them. It comes off as a lot more hollow in this movie because of the cultural impact and climate surrounding Black Panther's character.
True.
He's talking about something really culturally significant and in the zeitgeist right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Thanos is a very generic, like, kind of Dark Knight Joker, like the prison philosophy, like whole thing where he has a very far too grand and philosophical. Like he's basically going up to everybody and presenting them with the trolley experiment.
Yeah. And I think that's what I hate about this as well, that they reduced Thanos to that.
It's upsetting that it feels like a similar type of character was done in a much more compelling way.
I guess
just in the movie before.
But I guess to me the thing is that Marvel has known for the better half of a decade that they have a villain problem. And I feel like if they went strictly the route of maniacal dictator trying to impress death by just being a madman, he would have been reduced to a dark elf. He would have been reduced to Whiplash. He would have reduced, and I get what you're saying, but I feel like Marvel was doubling down, especially lately, because you've had Ego, who was a great villain, you had Vulture, then you had Killmonger, who's arguably the best, and they're like, okay, his motivations have to be more than I need to impress the personification of death by killing as many people as I can because I'm crazy. I guess that's
I get it. I do get it.
I feel like it also just feels like this the selfishness of it is slightly removed, and that you could argue that it's certainly like selfish in a degree in that he's doing this purely on his ego and hubris that he's right.
Well, and there's a weight to it. He doesn't necessarily want to do this. He feels it's his duty, and that's why he's like, when you wipe out half of humanity, what do? I'll finally rest, and I'll be able to rest knowing that I've done this thing, this thing that I've been burdened with, this like.
And again, I feel like
with.
that again. I don't want to compare this to comics, but I'm going to have to. If there's no ego with that, whereas I'm doing this as a job. I mean, he does it in the job of comics, but there's a lot of pride in it as well. Like And then again, in the movies, he's not God. In the comics, he is God. He replaces eternity as the end-all, be-all of the universe. And like again, we talked about it before. There's that great panel after he snaps his fingers and he's like, "Come and get me."
Yeah.
There's not that in this movie, so it's like, because the reason he fights the heroes in the comics is to impress Death.
Right.
There's no reason for him to fight the heroes now. So it's like, the hero's gonna fight him, sure, but it's like, what's he gonna do? Like,
but that's the thing, though. That's the interesting thing about this movie is that our perception of this movie and our views of this movie are going to be impacted either super positively or super negatively based on what the second movie does, how the story concludes.
Right.
So,
and again, I don't want to. I do agree, but I don't want to do that. It was like, oh, we can't talk about this movie.
Right. Yeah.
This is a movie. We have to talk about the movie as it is.
I feel like in this film, Thanos has a very distinct beginning, middle, and end, no matter how cliche the hero's journey might be. But by the end of the movie, he's won, he's content, he went through those trials and tribulations, and he got exactly what he wanted. To me, I feel like that's a very open and shut case.
No, again,
and then
I feel like that's what that's the thing I'm trying to figure out, because I'm like, okay, so the heroes get to him, what are they going to say? Hey, can you turn everything back? No, I completed my mission.
But we can't talk about that because that movie isn't out yet.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, it goes back, real quick, I'm just saying it goes back to my thing, was like, this Thanos has no depth to him almost whatsoever, aside from the character arc he has. He completed his mission, I'm just gonna sit back here and kick back. What else is there now? That's my problem.
Well,
that's within this movie, though.
What other, instance does he exist for at this point in terms of his character arc, other than to be and a vengeance for the Earth, basically, or like the people that were lost. Like pretty much now, it seems like he only exists to be killed in revenge.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is a little, just speaking off of where it seems, not disregarding the next movie's plot.
Right.
This is where the film sets it up at the end. And I will say, one thing I do really enjoy about this movie and Thanos in it, in that not only do they have the thing where the villain wins, I can't really think of that many sequel movies, even going like as far back as say like Empire Strikes Back, that does it. Like, granted, they have the guts because they know people are going to see the other ones, but it does have the guts to say not only did the villain win, but we're going to double down on that and show him reveling in his victory. The last shot you see of this film, besides the famous like Marvel after credits sequence, is Thanos sitting there looking at the sunset and being like,
it references the last panel of Infinity Gauntlet, which I actually do appreciate. Can we talk about Josh Brolin's performance real quick?
Josh Brolin.
He's really good.
I liked it a lot.
He's really good in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does a lot of just talking about the Gamora relationship. He does a lot of work to actually make that halfway feasible. Yeah. And that's impressive.
That's true.
And so does
Zoe Saldana. Yeah.
Saldana, yeah. But I really like how he looked.
Yeah, I did too.
The mocap and like
besides the early like image where people seem very unimpressed with his initial appearance.
Which initial appearance?
The early screenshot when he first showed up without his helmet.
Oh, right.
And everybody was just photoshopping him as basically like a thumb.
Right, but whatever.
No, you're never gonna please people, but he does in motion seem a lot better than initial screen. It doesn't help that those initial screen caps had a strange like sunset lighting. Yeah. Like evening lighting.
I'm talking
and he looked
about
very odd.
I'm talking about when he shows up in Wakanda. He comes through the portal of Wakanda, and you see like
the trees
raw sunlight on his skin.
Yeah.
And you can see like, oh shit, there's like tiny microscopic hairs on his head, and like you can see all the different. As someone who's always pulled out by bad CG, and even just like good by today's standards CG. Like I was the female member of the Black Order.
Oh, Proxima Midnight. She looked the worst of all.
Her hair was very like matted down, like plastic Barbie almost.
Yeah. But then doesn't help that her, like, of all of them with the non-human aspects of her design, like her head actually creates like protrusions that go in front of very human-like hair.
Yeah.
It had a weird thing where they were like, well, she's a female character, so we want to make her human enough that she's not grotesque.
Kind of.
Which sucks because
you know what I mean. Like it feels like with a lot of the male characters, they felt like they were like full-on fucking monster.
Yeah.
But with her, it felt like they were holding it, but like we want to make it look vaguely human.
Which sucks because I was actually reading through some old issues of Infinity where she plays a prominent role in that series, and like Jim Chung and the other artists and other inkers and pencilers, they make her look gorgeous. Like she's a good-looking character in the comics, so it's really disappointing to see in the movies where it's like, all right.
Where she kind of looks like Steppenwolf. From what little I've seen of Steppenwolf from the Justice League thing, where she kind of has like that very fake, and then her hair just looks like it doesn't move.
Yeah.
But then, almost immediately after her death and all the other deaths, you see Thanos, and like, I don't know, man. Like,
Thanos is good. No, he
fucking great.
No, he looks good even in the Wakanda sunlight. Like, I love the rapport he has with like Tony Stark on Titan as well.
I will. We've talked about this.
I also enjoyed getting to see him in his full armor.
The full armor was great.
I was kind of disappointed he took it off. I know some people were like,
I thought he looked phenomenal.
I did too.
Yeah. And I I was actually very disappointed.
And I know some critics.
It didn't really seem to have a reason to do that.
No, he didn't. I was like, why are you taking it off?
It felt even less so than Thor getting an eye back, because at least with that, you could understand Chris Hemsworth being like, look, I'm a big enough fucking deal in MCU. I don't want to wear an eye patch.
Well, also, like, it makes sense because Rocket sensed the first frame of Guardians stealing limbs.
Yeah. Prosthetic like piece. This is like the fifth time it's been brought up.
I just like how he's talking to Winter Soldier. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get that fucking
I'll get it.
My favorite movie. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say my favorite scene. It involved Thor and Rocket, but I wanted to talk about Josh Brolin was great in this movie, and I love how he's like he says Stark. He's like, you know me? Like, I do know you. Yeah. Like, I thought that was a great touch.
And the rapport between them where, it's just like Stark's kind of, Stark does have like a weird personal revenge against him because of the PTSD after the Battle of New York. But it is interesting that Thanos, out of all of these people, are like, oh, I've heard of you.
Yeah.
And I do like that.
No, I do like that. I think it's a nice touch considering, like, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. is the linchpin of this entire thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, Thanos is the one thing that this series has been going up to. So it makes sense.
He gets about as close to, like, active respect and, like, almost, like, not just his version of, like, an easy death mercy, but, like, almost an actual sense of, like, you almost get the sense he wants to say, like, I wish I could spare you. But no.
I can't. But
I can't.
What
but
I found
man,
interesting...
You're a cool fucking person.
What I found really interesting about that...
game recognizes game.
Yeah, let me tell you. But the amount of... Like, the fact that Tony Stark is the only one he refers to, not as an equal, but as an adult.
That's true.
Because everyone else he's saying, little one, my child, all these different things.
It's a Spider-Man.
Yeah, insect classic. But
which
like,
is odd because spiders are actually arachnids.
Spiders are arachnids, Thanos? Actually.
I was like, man, if Peter did not just get all air exited out of his body from that hit, I really wish he had said that.
Yeah.
But I liked how there was like this. The MCU has daddy issues, and this is kind of.
I think you mean modern Hollywood is.
No, but like especially this because
the MCU runs Hollywood now, so
essentially. But like
what an interesting coincidence.
Crazy that, but like Black Panther, the Black Panther and Thor, where the heroes realize, I really respect my dad. Found out that they have done some shit. Now I have to pay for it. Star-Lord and his dad, Tony and his dad, Spider-Man relying on Tony to be the father figure he couldn't have,
right?
And then now we've got Gamora and Nebula and Thanos. Even the beginning of the movie where Stark's talking about like I want to have a kid, I want to be a dad, and then his relationship with Peter, how he's kind of the surrogate father figure, and then all kind of building up to yes, Stark. We're both kind of father figures in a way.
I'm the dad of
the
everyone.
universe. Yeah.
You're the dad of the MCU.
Of maybe someone someday, I guess. But I don't know. So like, and by the way, the battle on Titan is the best part of the movie, right? Like as a scene, not just a moment.
Yeah. Well, again, my
I
favorite.
would say as a scene and not a moment, because I think some people would. It'd be hard to argue for some people just the impact of like actually seeing the go through with like people turning to dust
is probably the most memorable.
Probably the most memorable.
Yeah, but
the
as
scene
far
in Titan is probably the most well executed scene as a whole.
And it's probably honestly the best fight in the MCU.
Oh, I would say so.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, other than like the third act and maybe Winter Soldier, but
which is really great.
Which is really good.
And like the
airport scene.
The airport scene is up there. But honestly,
right.
Famous.
Honestly, I think I like the Titan one better because there's more to it.
There's
what
more,
I appreciate
and it's very innovative too.
It's very but what I like about
again, Thanos threw a moon at Iron Man.
Yes, that was my favorite. I loved seeing.
If you throw another moon at me, I'm gonna be really pissed.
I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah.
0 days remain. The Clocktown theme's going crazy, and the moon is just crashing into the earth.
But
that was fantastic.
It would have been great if while he pulled off the layer, a face formed.
Oh, don't worry.
I would have been.
This edit is going to exist the second this comes out on DVD. I promise.
Like, what I liked about the end of Winter Soldier and what I liked about the airport battle was the fact that it was very practical.
Yeah.
But it was, at the end of the day, a lot of people throwing punches. What I loved about this was it was the Guardians doing their thing. It was Doctor Strange doing all of his magic. Tony pulling out all of his gadgets. Spider-Man doing all of his flips and tricks. Mantis, having a moment in there.
Yeah.
And it was all unique. You never felt like Tony can do the things that Doctor Strange is doing.
No one felt like wasted screen time.
Except for Drax, but
I would say Drax too. But
I almost forgot what Drax did in this movie.
I almost forgot Drax was in
this. It's also just really frustrating because Drax of literally pretty much all of the characters besides maybe Gamora and Nebula has the strongest motivation.
Yeah.
But he also
Thanos.
has the least creative powers in that fight, which is I'm strong and I have a couple of knives.
Drax is in a really rough place where he has to be a really strong guy, but he's not
the strongest.
He's not
at all.
I don't, and you guys know this better than I do because in the comics, Drax's story exists solely to kill Thanos. Like that's his That's what he was made for.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have that in this movie. In the movies, does he?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
His family was
wife
killed.
and daughter and like everyone on his planet, but particularly his motivating factor in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, to the point of being having the Star-Lord moment that he has in this movie where he fucks everything up.
Yeah, he fucks everything up in the first Guardians.
Is because
no,
he
but
wants
I'm
to kill
asking
Thanos so bad.
or Ronan in the first one.
Well, he wants to kill Ronas, but at the end of the movie, because Rona's the one who killed him, and at the end of the movie, the line that gets thrown out is like, "Oh, don't worry,
I'm asking,
I know Ronan didn't do shit."
No, I get that, but I'm asking, was he literally created to kill Thanos? I don't think he was.
No,
right?
He was not created. This is a circumstance.
Oh, created like straight up like android level.
Was he basically?
No.
Was he basically
that's what I was asking.
No.
Was he basically like a golem of Prague made to destroy Thanos? Okay, I wasn't that familiar with the concept.
No, it's basically.
That's why I asked. That's why I differentiated.
No, he was. He is not created with a purpose. He was a person that existed.
Gotcha.
Had a life. Thanos destroyed it, and he wants to revenge.
Replace him with Kratos.
No,
and Thanos with the Greek gods.
Despite include the fact that Drax in the comic books at many times looks very similar to
Kratos. Like a color swap Kratos?
To the point where it's like, probably God of War stole something. One of them stole.
Man, nothing.
Whichever design of that showed up first, whether it was the version of Drax that looked like, or the God of War, one of them stole from the other one.
I think that version of Drax started in 2007.
Which is why I was thinking it might have been that. Like, they took that from God of War, but I don't know. Also, Drax didn't do this to himself.
That's true.
Kratos did all of this shit to himself.
He's not wearing the ashes of his dead family because he's a terrible dad.
You know, I'd forgotten that Kratos killing his own family. It's even worse than, like, because Hercules in the original myth, he did what Kratos did.
Yeah.
But because Hera said particularly, fuck this bastard son of Zeus. Like, of all of them, I'm putting all of my hate on this one.
Yeah.
Because I can. And
those
so,
Greek gods,
man. She descends the madness upon him and makes him see his family like monsters, and he kills them.
Yeah.
Kratos doesn't see his family as monsters. He sees them as other random innocent people that he was ordered to kill.
Yeah.
It's very unsympathetic. You're like, oh, okay, you killed your family because you were already being an asshole. And now you blame all of your problems on everybody else.
Probably why they rebooted the franchise.
That is exactly why the new God of War exists.
But anyways, moving back on Gwyneth.
I fell asleep during that too, Gwyneth. Kidding. I want to talk about the Infinity. What was that?
I said I wouldn't blame.
No, I want to bring up the Infinity Gauntlet because it's really interesting what happens with it at the end.
Yeah.
Because he snaps his fingers. Half the universe is gone. It's charred and destroyed. And then when he goes to that metaphysical realm, he doesn't have it anymore. And we don't see it in the last scene where he's just resting, basically in the sunlight and everything.
Where to go?
And
that is an interesting question.
And honestly, and another thing is, why, when he does the thing, why is it used already? Like, why does that happen?
I believe what that scene is implying is that the receptacle for the stones, using all of them at the same time, it was using all of their power at once was so great that even the receptacle couldn't contain that power. But the stones are obviously fine, but the receptacle itself, it's basically like a cannon that has fired a shot so powerful that the cannon's busted.
No, yeah, that's always. I hate how people actually use the gauntlet as that's Thanos' glove in the comics. It's not a gauntlet that was created for it. It's just his glove. But again, after that, it's always a special thing. Which is weird.
It was an afterthought.
Yeah. So
and now it's because it's become such an iconic relic of this character that it kind of got swept up in his build-up. Yeah. And now it's his Aegis. It's like his crafted from the gods
No, absolutely. Weapon. So it's just interesting. Where did the gauntlet go?
And that's going to be a huge player in terms of going forward in the next movie, because like you said, because I didn't sleep. Okay, I stayed up and I was just going through, man, and because I was hyped after this movie, and I was looking back and the Russos were like, the sequel to Infinity War is a continuation, but it's a different story. It makes me wonder, and I really hope this isn't the case, but it makes me wonder if Thanos legit is done. And
done as in like they take him off the board, like he's just not
done.
Well, I think...
And like the gauntlet's gone, the stones are scattered like the Dragon Balls, and
I'd love to see the stones just like go up
Just
in the sky and
off.
shoot in different directions.
but because like I don't, because like they're saying that it's a continuation, and obviously you have to get the people back, you have to get all the heroes back and stuff, and I really hope they don't, because that's a cop out in like a weird dumb way, because like Thanos wins and then he's just, well, I did it, now I'm gone, and then the Avengers are going to reverse it and I'm still just kind of gone.
Yeah, that's kind of my problem with this version of Thanos. It's like he's done, so it's like, what is he what does he do next?
Yeah.
And again, the Avengers are going to have to get the Infinity Gauntlet back, or some means to get back the people. So it's just like, what happens next? And again, this happened in the comics where they do get everyone back. So that was for me, like, that's why I didn't care about the end.
See,
Yeah.
for me, when I reached the end, and I don't know the comic book's exact arc of this, so not that familiar with that. But I was like, when you reach the end game, or rather the end of this movie, what clearly seems to be the case is like one of three routes is about to happen. We have what I think most people would agree is the most obvious one, and from what I can gather is the route taken in the comics is reclaim the Infinity Stones and Gauntlet for good guys, bring everyone back after like Thanos wins, basically. 2, Doctor Strange does some time shit again, which would be really underwhelming because he's already done.
But it would also destroy the universe.
True.
Like the actual cinematic universe, because if nothing matters because of the time stone, then there's no stakes.
There's no stakes anyway.
Toby, let me have my fun with my superhero movies, damn it!
Hold on, one more, my last point before we because again, I, like I said, the initial one I brought up I think is the most likely.
Probably.
The second one I brought up I think is the least likely for that reason you mentioned, the fact that it's already been done, and the fact that they already had him using the time stone in the beginning, and they didn't really have a big scene being like, he pulled some shenanigans. Like it would feel like a really lazy rug sweep. And
it would feel like why didn't they just do this beforehand?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it would also feel like, what was the point?
Yeah.
The last one, and what is like the one I feel the most mixed on, because in some ways it would be simultaneously one of the more interesting choices and one of the more safer choices, is this sticks. And characters that died now exist in MCU Ultimate Universe.
So basically leftovers.
Yes. Like we have a new dimension.
They disappeared like the leftovers, so it's just like, yeah, why not? Yeah, some people have speculated that as well.
See, I don't...
That would be interesting.
That's what I think that would be interesting in that you could actually stick with these choices and have characters deal with the loss of these people while keeping your icons and brands and like making your Spider-Man Homecoming 2.
Yeah.
But in the other way, it would also be a very safe, like, kind of lame choice, because that's like the comic book cop-out. That's
Marvel did that in the 90s with Heroes Reborn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like
it's having your cake and eating it too.
It's the most obvious comic book cop-out. It's just like, these deaths matter, but we still get our people and we still make our shit.
Yeah.
And like that to me is like, sure, like they could pull some shit that we're not expecting, but those are probably, one of those things is probably going to happen.
Yeah.
And most people seem very convinced that it's the first of those three things that I mentioned.
Yeah, because
that's
what happened in the comics. Like eventually, once Thanos gets rid of half the universe, says, "Come and get me," it's Adam Warlock, Silver Surfer, and Doctor Strange, and rally all the heroes left, and they go to Thanos's.
And Adam Warlock is already on the table.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because again, I didn't watch Guardians of the 2, but I heard that
that's the end credits stinger.
That's what I heard. Like Adam Warlock is here, so it's like maybe
he's
Captain.
Not here yet.
He's in a cocoon.
Okay, but he's in the universe to some degree. So I mean, if he's still around.
The name Adam has been said.
Okay, so I'm interesting. I'm wondering, like, would he appear in Captain Marvel?
I hear he's not coming till Guardians 3. Which is weird because
I heard that too.
What would be the point of having Adam Warlock in Guardians 3?
Remember, Captain Marvel takes place in 1999, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2, like, canonically takes place about 6 months after the first Guardians of the Galaxy, which is close enough to our timeline that Adam Warlock being in a cocoon, like, is just been created state, makes it nearly impossible for him to show up in Captain Marvel.
I feel
I mean, it would be very easy to be like, he was out before, now he's in a high.
Yeah, they can cut the corners.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I feel
the
like
implication I think that they're going for is that he's not active yet.
Yeah.
He's a pawn waiting to be put on the board.
But I feel like the way Hulk was Silver Surfer in this movie. Captain Marvel is going to be Adam
Warlock probably.
in the sequel. Which, to be honest, I'd rather see Brie Larson than any Hollywood actor in gold paint.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just me, man.
No, absolutely.
So, I mean, I guess here's the thing: we can sit here, we can speculate all we want about what's going to happen in the next movie, but either it's going to be something so outlandish we never thought of, and we'll love it or hate it, or it's going to be exactly what we're thinking of, and it's going to be a super lazy cop-out, and we're going to love it or hate it.
And a lot of times with the MCU, it's one of those two.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I hope that you can't really have a Guardians 3 where Star-Lord, the plucky man-child, is mourning over the death of his girlfriend.
Why not? That'd be interesting.
It would be very interesting. That's why it's not going to happen. So Gamora will come back.
The MCU in a nutsack.
So Gamora will come back. I really think that.
Here's a question. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but do you think the people who die before the Thanos got rid of half the universe are liable to come back?
I think they're going to. I think those are.
Do you think those are in play as well?
I think those are dead.
Okay.
I think most people would say those are dead.
I would think so too.
Heimdall and Loki especially have to be dead.
Okay, Heimdall is dead because Idris Elba, you could see the look on his face of, thank God I'm not in these films anymore.
I got shit to do, man.
I had a lot of fun with the first one, kinda, but man, I've got a career.
Right.
Like,
look at me. I'm Idris Elba.
People want me to be James Bond for some reason.
This shit stopped being fun the second this hit week 1 of the box office.
Right.
So you could see the look of relief on his face.
Yeah.
Loki.
He did kind of have a smile on his face, which was kind of great.
But Loki, I don't know about.
No. I'm sick of Loki. He's got to go.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, he's got to go.
I was about to say, I don't know how you guys felt, but I actually felt so happy that they on screen killed and
showed like a brutal
all the
death.
Times that they've done that, and Thanos, they made super sure to drive that home because
no more resurrections. Almost looking at the camera no, I think this one might stick this time.
Yeah.
No, it's good because especially his story's over. His story's been over. So it's just let get rid of him.
I know that they in the movie were talking.
Loki and Tom Hiddleston's performance were so interesting at the time they came out.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And it's such a big part of what made Avengers so good.
Mm-hmm.
That place of a villain and that personality as a villain has haunted the MCU since Avengers came out.
Very much so.
You saw it particularly the most painfully with Ultron, where they tried so hard.
We need another Loki
to make Ultron new Loki.
And this is something I want to bring up later, but it sucks that they kind of ruined. They didn't ruin him, but it sucks they already wasted him already.
Yeah.
Because Ultron's a great villain.
He is a great villain.
Ultron's a great villain.
Yeah.
So it's you could have brought him. Or I mean, it's Ultron. You can always bring him back, but it's that wouldn't work now.
Yeah, it seems pretty final.
Yeah, but it's just damn, that sucks. Because this guy, I agree. Tom Hiddleston as Loki was so good, and the fans, especially Tumblr, catered to him so thoroughly.
Yeah.
It almost it did create a villain problem.
They were aware of.
It was one of the reasons why they created a villain problem.
I felt like that was. I felt like the villain problem. A huge portion of it just rose out of them trying really hard to just not even reclaim exactly what Loki was, but the kind of we have to fucking outdo ourselves. We either got to recapture the magic or outdo ourselves. And the times where they really excel are the people where the director's fuck it. I'm just going to tell a character who has a deal.
Exactly.
Which is why the Vulture in Homecoming is so great, which is also more so for that part in the movie where they slipped a Martin Scorsese scene in a Marvel movie.
Which was perfect. Which was incredible.
Oh my god. That took that movie up from a fantastic movie to a fucking phenomenal movie.
It's a classic Spidey scene where there's an innocent, passerby who's completely oblivious to the back and forth going on. And Peter's just white knuckling the armor. It's just
oh boy. And
good
Killmonger.
thing Spider-Man showed up. Just fucking milking the scene.
Oh yeah. And then Killmonger, who's as you said, is interesting because clearly the writer and directors of that movie were we've got shit we want to talk about, and we have a character that's going to explore these themes.
No Infinity Stones, and I think that's kind of the thing where it's the further away a villain gets from my desire is the Infinity Stones, the more interesting they are because they have personal goals.
Yeah, because the first Guardians was on TV again, and
Ooh.
yeah.
Talk about
man.
a villain problem.
No,
because
no.
the heroes are so good,
Yeah.
and then you cut to the villain. And
No,
it's
and
just
Ronan,
like,
and yeah, and then
you.
Ronan the Accuser, played by Lee Pace. The whole thing with him is like, I want to get the stone so I can trade it to Thanos or destroy it, and it's like, man.
Or so I could betray Thanos.
Yeah, or
So-
betray Thanos. But it's like,
Which
there's
is going to work out well. I mean,
absolutely, it happens all the time. No, but it's like there's like nothing there for him to play
those
with.
scenes drag.
Yeah,
They stop the film.
they do.
And it is. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Well, he's also like acting as a forefront for a race that, if you aren't familiar with the comic books, you don't give a shit about.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
And even
You
as someone
will with Captain Marvel.
and yes, you will. And even as someone who is like balls deep in the comics, as I am with the Kree, I didn't care what's going on as far as that goes.
Right.
It's like, I know this is Xander, this is Nova Corps. I don't care. Like,
But
this
it's
is Lee Pace as
because-
Ronan. I don't care.
But it's okay. A mannequin could have played Ronan. Who cares? But the fact that like the personality of the Guardians was what made Guardians so good.
Yeah.
And watchable. And then you get to a villain that has no personality.
And honestly, that's the other portion of the villain problem, where it's just like they put so much energy in making the characters so fun and relatable. The villains are not even characters; they're just obstacles that the characters have to dispose of.
Right.
So they can get back to quipping and having fun. Like, that's the problem.
Which was what was the most fascinating about Black Panther to me is that arguably the most boring character in the movie is T'Challa.
Yes.
And everyone around him is fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
But he like you said, he's the James Bond of this movie where things happen to him and he reacts. But the star of the movie is his sister, the leader of his bodyguards, the villain, his dad.
it almost felt like he wasn't there for about a third of it.
Kind of.
Not, kind of, but not quite.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't. Man, where are we in this discussion?
Oh no,
everywhere,
no, yeah,
really.
we are everywhere.
I mean, this is the. Yeah, I did want to say one thing
please.
we mentioned about this movie, and I will note, look, pretty much the majority of this criticism, I haven't really heard almost anybody talk about this movie without the caveat of like, I'm just so impressed how they balanced all these characters, which is of course something worth mentioning because it is really impressive. But it's interesting how much of the discussion about this movie, in terms of like a critical response, is people talking about the Sisyphean task of like getting all of these characters balanced into one story.
It is though.
Oh, it is.
It is, and
it certainly
it
is.
and it isn't at the same
It
time, because
really is.
No, for the most part it is, but it's like a lot of characters get shortchanged in this.
Yeah, we talked about how
characters
the
Like,
new
I'm pretty
characters
sure-
grew.
Admittedly,
Well,
not as bad as in a lot of other crossover movies with even less people.
No, that's true.
But
That's true.
That doesn't excuse that.
Right. It's I joke to our friend Shelby, like, I think Prox of Midnight and Black Widow have this exact same amount of lines. Like, I'm pretty sure. Like, it's close.
Black Widow and
close.
who?
Proxima Midnight, the female of the Black
Yes,
Order.
yes.
Like, I'm pretty sure they have the exact same amount of lines.
I mean, that's pretty telling. I was like,
Yeah.
who?
Yeah.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy. Who?
Yeah. And again, I've told this to everyone else. Proxima Midnight was the reason I watched this movie. I love that character so much.
And
And she's voiced by Carrie Coon.
Let's be fair.
Dun, dun.
This is the problem that. This is like what you might as well call the Black Widow problem. Like, she's plagued by this in a lot of the movies. Like, she.
Well, no, I think the problem with Black Widow,
She gets thrown aside as a strong side.
especially Black Widow, is the fact that she can go from being a nothing character to a borderline offensive character to one of the best characters in the movie, depending on who's writing her.
Depending on
That's
who's
true.
writing her, and depending on the fact that she's the female one. She's the only female one, so she has to represent so much.
But what's great
in
about
those
this movie
regards.
is she's not the female.
No,
one,
that's
because
true.
The weird thing
Okoye-
is, I feel like they haven't been able to shake that off.
Oh no, they haven't.
Like,
They
I
haven't
feel like
really.
the way they approach her, they feel like she's like, guys, we have to remember this is our only female character. It's like, you have a lot of female characters.
And
now,
it
at
would
least
have
comparatively.
yeah.
they would have curtailed that if they just did the movie already. If they
Yeah.
just made a Black Widow movie already.
If they just made a Black Widow movie, but even then, I feel like because
And they were
because
beaten
like
to
I
it
know
by Fox Searchlight.
who
They're beaten to it by Fox Searchlight. They're beaten to it by Atomic Blonde. They're beaten to it by
Yep.
Lucy. They're beaten
Yep.
to it by so many.
Yeah.
The Red Sparrow is basically a Black Widow movie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I believe Fox Searchlight did that. Yeah, I don't know.
But,
Could be
like-
wrong.
We'll look into that.
but like
But you're right. Yeah.
because like Nebula has a very especially if you watch this movie after Guardians 2, is a very strong character that has very distinct motivations, a very distinct personality. Same for Gamora. Same for Okoye.
Yeah, Okoye, yeah.
Okoye.
And Shuri.
Yeah.
even Pepper at this point.
Yeah.
But it is weird because like you go and what I love about Winter Soldier so much is how much of a personality she has.
Yes.
She's funny. She's insightful. She's she's kind of like the.
There's some personal stakes to her in that movie.
There's a lot of personal stakes, and there's some of that. You see glimpses of that in the first Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much in Civil War, but and I think that when you look at it from that point of view, it is disappointing that the Russos did this, and they're the ones who gave her the most agency in Winter Soldier, and then she is so shortchanged in this movie. But again, the same could be said for everyone on Earth.
Yeah.
Because the
I mean, Captain America.
He's basically
for
cameo.
as big as he is, yeah.
He is a glorified cameo. In
It's
movie.
weird how much he is that,
Despite
especially
that beard.
Despite that great beard.
Punished Cap.
Yep, good stuff.
But like, it's weird how much they sold him in the trailers, like he's as this big turning point. Like, give this man a shield, and
and he walks up out of the shadows,
with what could only tentatively be described as a shield.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's be real here.
Yeah, it's like a gauntlet shield-esque.
It's still made of vibranium, so it's still good.
Right. Oh, of course.
But you can't throw it like the old shield, but whatever.
But I mean, for everyone who's shortchanged in this movie, you do get people like you do have the amount of Guardians that's in this movie, especially Gamora being the standout Guardian.
It's very surprising.
And then Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
who his movie is okay at best.
Yeah.
It is a retread of everything that was wrong with Marvel up until that point. But
I mean, besides those visuals.
The visuals, fantastic.
Phenomenal.
I will argue, and then the climax.
Some of the comedy beats in that movie are just
bad.
Some of them are really good.
Some of them are really bad too. Remember when he dropped Adele, and you're like, and then there was a pause for laughter, and no one laughed. I remember that. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm going about my day, and I'm like, remember that Adele joke where no one laughed?
Is it the Adele or the Beyonce one?
Either or, man. Like
I don't know what theater you saw it in, because the one I saw had a lot of chuckles and lightheartedness.
Not from Benedict. No, because here's the thing.
Well, I'm not talking about Benedict. I'm talking about Wong.
No, I'm talking about where he's
I'm talking about Wong.
Where Wong was listening to music, where he was like, he was approaching Wong in the fucking library. We're talking about this, Gwyneth. Buckle in, if you're still fucking listening. But he walks in, and he's like, so what? He's talking to Wong. He's like, what? You never listened to anyone? Adele? And then there's like a space for laughter, and Wong kind of gives him a huh kind of look, and Benedict's kind of like, I said a joke, laugh, and no one's laughing. Like, can you continue the movie? This isn't funny. Why do you have musical knowledge, Doctor Strange? I'm so glad they dropped that. Why
does a prominent surgeon, know about music? What an asshole.
He has a photographic memory, which I get because he's like super smart and he learns a bunch of shit. Here's the thing.
Steve, would you go up to a doctor now who's like, I like Adele, and would you point at them and be like, why the fuck do you know music? No. Crawl back in your hospital, you creep.
No.
How dare you walk out of the light of culture?
No. Here's what I'm saying. I prefer Doctor Strange in Ragnarok, where he's already Sorcerer Supreme.
Sure.
I don't want to see him learn it. I don't care about that part of him learning it.
I think that's fine. I wouldn't go so far as to say there are no laughs in this film.
No, I'm just saying that one joke.
That was a strong statement.
No, I'm just saying that one joke sticks out to me more than I can't remember a joke. I guess from Doctor Strange.
That's most of the, I will agree with you. That movie
Honestly,
is
I can't
on a
remember
large
the movie
part forgettable.
except for the last battle, him fighting the
last battle,
I was going to say the large part of that
stands
movie
out
is forgettable.
as one of the best parts of the MCU to me.
Yeah.
Where he outsmarts the enemy instead of just wailing on him like all the other people.
And I think like a movie that will deliver a part like that strong is at least worth remembering for that part.
But that, and every time I think back to like my most memorable moments in the MCU, that is up there. But the rest of the movie I can completely do without. But what
even
I liked
score
about
with the harpsichord?
Yeah, even the score with the harpsichord.
I like the harpsichord.
No, I legitimately, and I'm sure the movie's fine. I saw it once in theaters, and that was all I needed.
Same here. It's not a phenomenal movie. You came at it so strongly, and I was like, whoa, I don't think it's that.
I think it was because we got that.
It's about
movie.
as bad as Disney will let an MCU movie be for the most part.
But no, it's because we got that version of Doctor Strange, and then right out the gate, the next thing we see Doctor Strange in is Ragnarok, and he is a perfect Doctor Strange.
Absolutely.
He has complete control of time and space, and he's just doing it like mundanely. And then this movie, we have like
he strongly seems like a movie that did.
Doctor Strange.
He seems like a character that didn't need a movie. Really.
He didn't need a movie. I feel like
I feel like a Doctor Strange movie may have been better if they went the Homecoming route.
Where they introduce him.
Where they just go up to you.
Then...
Well, I guess in Homecoming it's for different reasons, but in Homecoming they're like, you know what you don't need to see again? Uncle Ben dying. We think you get it.
And we get it.
And with Doctor Strange, well, it's for a different reason. It's not most people certainly aren't going to go into Doctor Strange and be like, look, I've seen Doctor Strange's origin 50 times already. Like, most people are going to need to know what the deal is.
The Himalayas again?
Boy.
I think Doctor Strange
Cigar.
The ancient one?
Firecracker Kung Fu.
Astral projection. I think the Doctor Strange movie may have been better if we just saw, like, hey, I'm going to because nobody's going to see I'm a wizard and be like, well, then how the fuck did he get here? He's a goddamn wizard. Like, Jesus.
Moving on. Yeah, really moving on.
A wizard is neither early nor late. He arrives precisely when he needs to.
Okay.
Unless he
We're
needs
not
an
going
origin.
down that
Unless he
road.
needs an origin story.
My favorite scene in the movie was kind of the only scene that had any pathos to it, any depth to it, because this movie is basically like a video game, where it's just like plot, has to happen.
I feel it's earned.
I'm not saying it's not earned. I'm just saying.
I'm just throwing that out there.
No. I'm not saying it's not
As
earned.
the optimistic one defending this thing.
No, I'm not saying it's not earned. I'm just saying, as a movie,
Right. No, I agree.
with usual aesthetics, that's why I felt the runtime drag. It does for its own pace. It does move fine, but after a while, you think when I took a step back watching, I was just like, man, they still got to do all this shit still. But my favorite scene in the movie was when Thor talks to Rocket.
I was just about to say that.
And they're talking, and Rocket kind of comes up to him and it's like, all right, I'm going to be the captain, I'm going to talk to you. And Thor's just like, Dad's died. I found out a sister I didn't have, she's dead. My mother died by a dark elf. My brothers died before, but I think it's really suitor's time. And the way Chris Hemsworth plays it off
is brilliant.
It's brilliant. Like, he's trying to choke it off at the same time, throw it off, but at the same time, he's very worn down by all of this. Why wouldn't he be?
He also seems like in the throes of the stages of grief.
Very much so.
He seems like he's somewhere between denial, anger, and depression.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And
even bargaining, because he's going to kill the person who did
Right,
this.
right. And it's like I do know the movie is so relentless as far as the pace goes. It can't stand that movie for a long time. But I do like the fact where it's like, this happened. I know who killed my brother. I'm gonna kill him. I need a weapon to kill him. Like, again, what we talked about before when we watched the movie. I love how Thor, as much as the movie does favors to Gamora and Doctor Strange, this movie is aces for Thor.
He's the MVP of this movie.
He's absolutely.
I would say above Thanos, above Tony.
And not only that, but it's like, again, character arc where it's like, boom, A, B, C, D. It's a straight linear line for what this character has to do.
Yep.
And I love how much it acknowledges like all this stuff. Like, again, I keep joking we had 3 Thor movies, which it is a joke, but at the same time, a lot has happened to him in those 3 movies.
Yeah.
And again, I think when the first Thor first appeared, that was a movie like, what the fuck, Thor, really? And then we get the Ragnarok, I was like, oh shit, yeah, Thor, yeah, hell yeah.
Now, I will say, I also
he's changed, he's evolved the most. So
I like that his character change in this movie feels a little more. I don't know if earned is the right word, but I don't know if you guys had this sensation. I had the moment at the very beginning of Ragnarok, and when your director is Taika Waititi, and he's directed most prominently like Flight of the Conchords, New Zealand like comedies. Like, you're coming in for a really goofy, outlandish, like that movie. Delivered exactly what it was on paper.
Yes,
which is phenomenal, and I love that. But I had this bit of character like tonal whiplash at the very beginning of the movie where Thor is facing this mighty demon and Thor's just like, you know what I do now? Quips.
Yeah.
That's my thing now.
But
that's MCU. Everyone quips.
But
it felt like Thor was always like a weirdly straight, like, I don't get how this realm works. And he always seemed a little stilted because he was maintaining the figure of a mythical, like, godlike being. And it felt like they just suddenly were like, we're just going to skip ahead to the part where he's funny, so this can be as much like of the Guardians of the Galaxy tone.
Yeah, and not only that, because between the movies of like Thor and Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok, we figured out Chris Hemsworth has great comedic timing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they really kind of spelled it
realized
off.
who they had in there, and I will say that doesn't really negatively affect that movie.
Oh, no.
because you have that thought, and then you're like, but I don't really care.
But you're
it's
on board
funny
for this
and I
ride.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I had that moment where I was like, oh wow, they changed that pretty good.
To me though, I feel like that scene with Rocket makes the rest of Ragnarok, no matter how much of a comedy that is above an action or a superhero movie, it gives that, because like I like that the Russo brothers are saying, okay, we are taking the funniness from Ragnarok and we're incorporating that into this version of our version of Thor, but it's not I'm doing quips. He is, but it's more he has been that scene shows he's been driven mad almost by how much shit he's gone through.
Yeah.
He's
and it
bordering
shows
on Thanos levels. Like he has that traditional like shade of like villainy. Like I have a drive to get my goal.
But it's more than that. It's like he's almost a Spider-Manning it, where he's like, he's talking about like even that scene where he's just like, oh, Thanos has never fought me. Well, yeah, he has. Well, he never fought me twice. But there's like a fucking tear in his eye.
There is.
He's masking his pain by being like, everything's fine. And I think that's especially telling when he says, I'm 1,500 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I have never died. He is just another. And the way he says it with such finality, the way he says it with such certainty, he's like, he's just another block to get through. And that's, to me, that's what, going back and watching Ragnarok and seeing it through the lens of how he is in Infinity War, it's still hilarious, but you see it more as, I do need to get home. I've accepted my brother, and I've got all these people, and yeah, a lot of the emotional beats in that movie are undercut by the blatant jokes, because it's a comedy.
Yes.
But you see it now more as the jokes and the comedy and the quips are him being driven mad by how shitty his life is, and he's using it to mask how distraught and broken he is.
Which again, granted, I'm talking about him just suddenly being that way at the beginning of the film. Before
we get it. Yeah.
Like,
well, even
I don't think that I don't have a problem with the comedic tone or even his quip level. It's just the suddenness of it. Like I said, at that point in the movie, it didn't feel really like an earned change of character. It felt much more like we're changing the character because this is the type of movie we want this to be.
Well, they did address that he had spent 3 years searching for, the Ragnarok, the source of Ragnarok, and he went mad in the process.
That is true. That makes a little more sense.
But no,
I feel like that maybe wasn't driven as home as hard as it could have.
I agree, though, that Thor was the standout.
Yeah, for sure.
That seems interesting because until you explained that, it didn't really come to grips to me that this is a person who has always understood himself as a literal deity and mythical figure, understanding for the first time that he might not actually be. Like, he's been told that before, and he had a hard lesson in disillusionment in Ragnarok, but you get the feeling that he's finally starting to understand, especially once Rocket says that oh shit, I might not be the good guy in a legend. I might be a
footnote in the legend of Thanos.
Yeah.
Or this might just be life.
Right.
This might not be a story. Like,
and even the line, like even the fact where Thor opens the kennel to restart the Death Star. Yeah. Even when like Peter Dinklage was like, you could die, and it's like, well, you can kill. If I kill, I could die, and it's like. That's what that means.
What killing
like,
means.
It's like, again, it plays off of this joke, but at the same time, that kind of leads into like Thor's almost acceptance of finality. Like, if he dies during this, and it is what it is.
Then
if
I'm
not,
dead, and
then I'm
that's
dead.
it.
And that's okay. But if not, I can still fight Thanos.
He's like, I'm either gonna die here, or I'm gonna be killed by Thanos, and like I'm gonna die trying to kill Thanos.
And even like Rocket, he's talking about like 1,500 years old, and I have to beat Thanos to my destiny and whatever. And Rocket's like, what if you're wrong? And he goes, I don't have anything else to lose.
Yeah, that's true.
And that is, to me, he is the most interesting character in the movie.
Yeah.
Because he has such a fascinating view about what fate is. Because his fate is either die to Thanos, okay, I'm dead.
Yeah.
There's nothing more that can happen. Or beat Thanos to get to my ultimate destiny, whatever that may be, whatever Valhalla, awaits for me.
Right.
And then again, the moment he arrives on the Bifrost with Rocket and Groot,
bring me Thanos!
And then he just slams it all
Stormbreaker.
Guys, I'm telling you, that got me fucking pumped.
No, I
loved it.
No, I told you that action-wise, that was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Like moment-wise, action-wise, that was the standout moment.
That was a standout moment for me. Is there anything we don't like in a movie? Like, is there anything?
Oh, absolutely. I've been biding my time. Actually.
Oh, okay.
There was one point that I did want, but before I do get, I didn't get to quite finish one point that I was thinking, when I brought up the whole the fact that there's so many characters in the balance. One of the things I think is more interesting than just the sheer size of the cast that they're balancing is that this movie pulls off what I think is a failure of, and I know you'll at least appreciate that I have something negative to say about HBO shows, but one of the problems I see it happens a lot with HBO shows, and particularly their epics, aka like Game of Thrones, Westworld, is that so much of those shows revolve around we have all these characters over this massive expanse of land, whether it's the entirety of Westeros and this. And my biggest failure in those things is that I feel like they're so disconjointed that I don't care about any of those individuals.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing connecting any of them, really. It's just, for the majority of the time, besides a few moments where things happen at a strong moment, it just feels like dislocated things happening to people that are kind of interesting but don't really attribute to any central even theme. Like, things are just happening. And like, they're entertaining little vignettes, but they're kind of a letdown when you've sold me on this is an epic. And I feel like this movie delivers where that promise was like made else places.
Yeah, I think definitely too, because
that's the thing I like about Thanos in this movie.
Yeah.
That him and his mission provides such a strong central thing of everybody's doing these things, but you all know they all have one thing on their mind, and that's if I fuck up, Thanos wins.
Yeah.
Right, and it's interesting, like a lot of, kind of jumping on that, but it's interesting that like a lot of critics have talked about, a number of critics talked about, well, one, it's really funny to hear critics talk about Thanos, because it's like, this is a character they've never had to deal with before, and it's just like this big purple thing, and I'm just like, I love Thanos. I love Thanos since I was a kid. But it's interesting, like a lot of people are talking like, oh, this movie has no backstory, the characters just appear, and it's like, there's been 10 years of the backstory, man.
And
it's
that's
like,
again,
what like you mentioned before, this movie's for the diehard fans who stuck in with this franchise. It doesn't matter if they don't have if they just come in.
Yeah.
That's the fucking point.
And that's what I mean by it's unprecedented. And there's critics like from like older Hollywood who are coming into this like, I don't get it, so it's bad. It's like this is something no one's really seen.
It's astonishing how it's like they don't get that point. Like that's the whole point of the 19 movies.
Literally,
the 18 movies
why do you
beforehand.
think there was a 10 that appeared on the Marvel Studios logo? This is a celebration.
Yeah,
it is not it's an event, like you said.
Like of all the things.
Would you say this is the SNL anniversary?
Basically,
special of Marvel films.
Like, yeah, part one. We'll get part two later. But it's like,
I was gonna say, but the bits are funny.
If Eddie Murphy was in this movie, he would have something. But
people aren't smiling politely like they showed up to like a family party that they had to come to.
No, it's a surprise. Like of all the things you can kind of hammer this movie about, that's the thing you're gonna like really like.
I mean, it's the easiest thing. I feel it separates. I am a film critic.
I don't know if they're doing that.
Film this.
I hope they're not. I hope they're not doing that.
I mean, I don't know about professional critics, but I see a lot of people on film Twitter who are like adjusting their black turtlenecks, being
whatever.
like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, you know.
Well, in fairness, like, what can you criticize this movie about that you don't know from the poster or the title,
or
like,
from the past decade of Marvel films?
Right.
If like they've
you're
improved,
well aware at this point
obviously.
that nobody. I mean, I'm sure people exist that do. I think most people aren't suffering from the delusion, man, of like, fuck it, I could start an Infinity War. What's gonna happen?
Especially since literally every single piece of advertising was saying it's all leading to this. A decade of films leading to this.
Yeah.
Flashbacks to films from a decade ago leading to this.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I'll jump on. Everyone else seems to jump on this movie.
You know what Stanley said? Every person Scott was the first one.
That's true. Wouldn't that be great if like some kid, he's like 7, and he's like, I can finally see a movie in theaters with my dad. My dad is so excited about it because I was born after he started liking these movies. He takes him to this movie and he's like, I loved it. No clue what happened. Can I have a Thanos plushie?
I'm pretty sure the reaction at the end of this movie would be what most children's reaction at the end of this movie is, which is tears. Have you not seen this? I've pretty
seen
sad.
It twice. Well, I mean,
I don't find it sad at all.
This reminds me of there's a great story that my mom has of a coworker who took his kid to like 3 years of age to see Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and
3.
Yes.
You don't retain anything when you're 3.
Not only that, but well, I don't know how young they were. They're very young. I might have said like 3. They might have been 5 or something. But they were too young. They were young. They were young. Okay. Well, I'm just saying. The point of the story is that they were very young, and my mom was like, I don't know. Are you sure that's an okay movie for them to see? Because it's like, you know, it's kind of violent, like stuff happens or whatever. And it's like, it's fine. Cut to opening. Mother dying of cancer, and then he gets taken up, and the kid just turns to his dad and said, what happened to his mom? No, I'm like, oh, okay, mortality is being learned about now.
Oh shit.
That's grim.
Just wait till volume 2.
Right. Yeah. So, any moments that stuck out to you that
Okay, so the
didn't like or didn't think
the
was
negatives
good?
to me are what I've been chopping at the bit to get to, like this, which is like, it's such a like formulaic cliche thing, but it's to me one of the moments that stuck out and only became worse so when I heard another person like on a podcast detail how many times it happened, and I was like, okay, it's not. Tropes and cliches are going to happen.
Sure.
But how many times they went to the well here of do this thing or I'm going to kill this person.
Mm-hmm.
This happens like at least 5 times in the movie.
Yeah.
It's just the sheer number of times it happens is... You could argue that they're doing a thematic thing because the line, we don't trade lives, gets used more than once.
Mm-hmm.
But... the fact that it's the exact same scenario and the only difference is how they choose to maybe subvert it or not is a little like it's not that the Marvel movies are known for always being like standouts of like avoiding cliches or subverting everything or like being the most original, but like the fact that that gets used so many times in the course of this single film is a little frustrating.
And it's interesting how, again,
it feels like they don't know how else to end a conflict with Thanos.
Right.
It feels like they're afraid to let at some point, it feels like some of the heroes, they're afraid to, like, let them just genuinely lose.
And not only that, but it's just like, I know in comics that we like our heroes not to kill.
Yes.
Because that's not what they do. They're supposed to rise above that. But at a certain point, they know half the universe is at stake. Maybe just get rid of Vision.
What? It's
She does, to be fair.
That's true.
It's also, which admittedly, I don't know if you guys felt that way, but going to that movie, I was surprised how long they held out on Vision existing.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, because there were posters...
right off the bat, get rid of them.
There were posters that basically confirmed that Vision was dead because you would see a poster with Vision on it, and with Thanos with the mind gem in the gauntlet, you're like, so there's a man and his corpse, like, on this poster.
Okay, but to be fair, in the commercials, there was the fight on Titan, and they saw, you only have 2 gems on the gauntlet, but by that point, you had 4, I think.
And of course, in the commercials, you also see Hulk fighting in the
right. I mean, Marvel's gotten really good at directing, misdirecting people in their advertisement.
Anything that sticks with you?
For me, I'm gonna go down my lists of negatives to kind of keep this a little more streamlined here, Gwyneth. I'm gonna go down my list of negatives, and then I'm gonna go down my list of absolute positives.
No. I was
we're gonna go around.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
All right. Negatives.
I can do that.
Toby's just like, you must be negative right now, and you're like, okay.
But I want to be positive.
Here's all my negatives, and you finish your negative. He's like, great, podcast over, and you're like, God, no, wait, you tricked me.
Oh, I wouldn't do that to him. I wouldn't do that to him or Gwen.
Wouldn't you?
No.
Okay. All right. So my negatives. Didn't buy the Gamora thing. I thought that was long and drawn out. I thought I liked their back and forth in the throne room. I liked their back and forth when Nebula was being tortured. I liked all of it up until the cliff scene.
Again, I feel like the performances really sell that.
Yeah.
But the actual notion of the love, it's like,
the notion of the love, the notion of him, because I was super excited when it got to that point, because I didn't know, like, oh, is he going to throw himself off of the cliff, and maybe there's be like some sort of weird way in which I didn't know.
You've proven yourself.
Or something, I don't know. But when he turns to Gamora, it was like, I don't know.
Yeah, as soon as Thanos asked what price, I was like, oh, he's gonna throw Gamora off the cliff.
Yeah, and it's the amount of time it takes to get there is exhausting.
But would it also have been interesting if Thanos throws Gamora off the cliff? And nothing happens. And he has to be like, wow, I'm a real piece of shit.
Oh, well.
No, he just would have been like, oh shit, now how do I get the stone now?
Yeah, exactly. He would have been like, well, wait a minute, I tried that. He just, Red Skull? No. This rock? No. The gauntlet? No. But even that would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
This poster of a cat that says "Hang in there."
Hang in there. Throws it, it gets stuck on a branch down. Oh, damn it.
Yes.
That was it. Not gonna complain.
It would have been really funny if Thanos was about to throw himself off.
Through a couple of Mondays. Back in the old throne room.
And Gamora's like, really?
I'm just picturing this massive throne room, and all the way to the other end. It's just that one.
He's got a telescope. Like, yes. Thank you. Pours himself a cup of Joe. I can do it. Today's the day, Thanos. You get the Infinity Stones.
Good.
No, but I didn't buy that. I liked at the end how she is going to be the motivator that's going to kind of drive him mad instead of his doubt in himself. It's going to be Gamora's spirit, I guess, to some extent in the second movie, maybe. But I like that it's still giving
sighing
her,
so hard inside.
It's giving her something to do, and I think it's interesting. I think it could be interesting. I know, Toby. Whatever.
I mean, but you could also just like actually give her something to do.
She's gonna have something to do.
She's dead. That's what she does.
No. But her spirit is still alive in the Soulstone realm. Toby, stop with the eye rolling. It's my negatives.
It's okay. She's a Martha now.
No, she's not a Martha.
Isn't she though?
She's not a Martha
now.
No, we don't know yet because the second movie hasn't come out. We're talking about this movie. So I didn't buy that.
Yeah.
Can we continue with my negative list? We're number one here.
I mean, I didn't get through more than one of mine, but that's fine.
Do you have a list?
I don't have a list, but I have like a couple of them.
Because I have a streamlined list. I was prepared, Gwyneth, to make this streamlined for you. I said that word.
You have one, I'll do one, we'll go back.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
This is going to take 17 years.
My other one is, hey, maybe we'll get another Marvel franchise out of it. But the other one I had was a much smaller one in terms of, maybe this was because I'd already signed him off and been like, well, Vision's a fucking dead man. Like, I guess part of my brain expected them to just kind of like get it over with because we all knew Vision had to go to some degree. But the fact that he stayed in the movie made it underwhelming to me. I felt like, and maybe this is a recurring problem since Age of Ultron, it feels like they're really treating Vision the same way they kind of do with Hulk. It's like he's a fucking secret weapon. And every time he comes out, it's really underwhelming. Like, he doesn't really have a whole lot to do. Like, he shows up at the end of Civil War, and, you know, he creates the moment with War Machine becoming paralyzed. And it's like, oh, this irresponsible use of power parallels, like, what we're fighting for. But, like, you know, he's not, like, this, like, fucking secret weapon that's thrown out that's changing the whole dynamic of everything. And when he shows up in Civil War, in Infinity War, all of his fights are, like, they basically fall to stalemates and hard-won, like, victories where he, like, barely comes out standing. And I guess everybody's throwing all their weight at him because he has the biggest target on his head that anybody does in this movie. But, man, for the way he seems treated as, like, this big, secret, like, next-level weapon, he doesn't really have that much power or significance to actions or event. Like, it's more, he's more of an objective of the story than he is like an actual like strong character, or like not in terms of like motivation, right, but in terms of like actual power. Okay. And like, not that I'm here to complain about power levels, like, but it just felt really underwhelming, and I guess that arose more so out of, I had it so dead set in my mind, Vision's out, like he's out. And the fact that he stuck him around, I'm like, all right, let's see what they do with him. And then the fact that
nothing
wasn't
happened.
Nothing,
yeah,
it was like, okay, well, you went to the trouble of keeping him around. I wish you'd have done more with him.
Okay. Rapid fire, another one, go.
Sorry.
Red Skull, hated it, stupid.
Red Skull, hated it, stupid.
Red Skull, hated, stupid.
Goddamn, like, and also like, what a fucking problematic like character to bring back too. Like, all that shit associated with Red Skull, like the literal Nazi.
Right.
Why bother bringing him back?
Don't know.
Why?
I really don't know.
Like, why bother dredging him up for nothing?
As large and as unique characters as the Marvel section of the Marvel comics and universe has, that's who you bring for this? Like,
especially, yeah, that, because my whole thing was watching that floating cloak. I'm like, okay, first of all, it's a floating cloak. We're in the cosmic universe.
Yeah.
There's all these different people we could bring in here. Then it was Red Skull. And I remember when I saw it a second time with my friends who's like a huge Hugo Weaving fan. And I didn't have the heart to tell him it's not Hugo Weaving. But he's just like, oh yeah, Red Skull's back. And I'm like, that's great if you love Red Skull. I didn't like Red Skull.
No, it's great. It's great you love Red Skull, and it's questioning, why do you love Red Skull?
Yeah, the question is,
hey buddy,
hashtag,
why do you like Red Skull? I'm a little concerned.
Yeah.
Been to protests lately? No. Any other?
It's like a friend who's like, man, I just love Griffith.
Because there's other things. Like, I feel like I don't like the fact that the team on Earth got shortchanged, but at the same time, I really I love what they did with literally all the other teams in this movie. I thought everyone was great.
Captain America in particular feels like I feel like Captain America, like there's a couple of people who have wasted potential, but Captain America feels frustrating in that he feels like misdirection that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Like it feels like they weren't trying to trick you to think that Captain America would be a bigger part, and it's like, oh shit, he wasn't. It felt like they just genuinely like, yeah, Captain America, like the whole divide between him and Tony, and they set that up in the movie, like it's gonna be a hard thing to bring him back, and then it's just like he's there.
Yeah.
He's doing he feels like he's earning his superhero paycheck.
Pretty much.
Like, it's just like,
which Chris Evans is doing at this point. Positives.
Positives.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The rest of the movie, guys, I had a lot of fucking fun with this movie. I really, really liked it.
I really was interested in how well this is pulled off, not from the balancing of everybody alone, like everybody will tell you that. I love the tone of this, how it's beginning to end, shit is happening. Your villain doesn't show up halfway through. He's here, and it's literally, you just have an an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
And they're trying to become an immovable object and failing. And I think that's really interesting. Mm-hmm. I've told a couple of friends before, but I was like, I'd be really interested to see a Spider-Man movie that's like a Death of Spider-Man type movie where, like, say you have shit's going wrong, like Avengers style New York, like every Spider-Man villain's doing shit everywhere. So we open a film and it's just conflict to conflict to conflict. Like, I'm going to each villain, and that's just like the end of it's just I died like fighting off all of these forces, and it overwhelmed me. But I like it's a literal representation of like the life of a superhero literally destroying.
Yeah.
Like Act 2, that's when the one person who hasn't shown up in a Spider-Man movie that I really want to see show up in a Spider-Man movie, and that's Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
Kraven would be fantastic.
Just waiting for Spider-Man to get worn out from all these fights, and is like, got my chance, you're fucking done.
Him and Mysterio, we've talked about this. They're tailor-made for the movies.
Yeah.
I know. I want to see a Kraven the Hunter movie so bad.
Positives for me, other than what we already talked about. I love that Nebula is at the end with Tony. Because at the comics, she's the one who takes the gauntlet off Thanos in the comics. So that, I feel like that's a nod that maybe she will be prominent later on.
I feel like she has been shortchanged repeatedly.
Yeah.
And I think she had a great. I really gave a shit about her at the end of Guardians 2. I thought she was fantastic.
I agree, but I'm waiting for her to get a strong payoff, because she has spent her whole life literally being second to Gamora, and then in the films being second to Gamora.
And she'll get her moment in the second one.
Exactly, which is why I said I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see her like finally get her moment.
I feel like I had a second one I forgot. No, I don't remember. Again, the reason I saw this movie, Proxima Midnight, she got shortchanged, but I'm just glad the Black Order is in a big franchise movie like this.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It's fantastic that happened. Ebony Maw was great.
They went full tilt with them.
They did. Again, nothing compared to the comics, unfortunately. But I'm just glad they're in the movie.
I forgot a negative, actually.
Okay.
I know we're past them, but the Black Order was another one, and particularly the fact that it felt like they knew they had to go.
Yeah.
And especially towards the end of the movie, I was really disappointed that they were just dropping like flies.
Yeah, the execution sucks for them.
It's that villain henchman trope. It's just like, if you build them up as super hard like that, it's gonna be really hard to defeat them in a way that feels satisfying.
Yeah.
I don't, cause like I'm listening to these complaints. I am.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it from a point of view that is, like, Proxima Midnight was defeated by the three female leads of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Hers was actually the death I thought was the most satisfying of all of them.
I also really like the fact
I hated her
that,
death, but just because she wouldn't have died at that point. But again, I'm comparing it to the comics.
I'm just saying, most of them, like,
then the big thing-looking one was defeated by Bruce Banner, not the Hulk, and that was a character moment.
Yes.
That was an interesting character moment, and that's what I think was interesting about every single aspect of this film, was that every Infinity Stone taken by Thanos was a character moment. Every death of the Black Order was a character moment. And there was growth. Everyone grew to some capacity. I mean, the characters that, got screen time grew to some capacity in terms of the MacGuffins of this film.
But see, that's kind of like what bothered me about is that in those moments, like to me, it took that when it came to the deaths of the Black Order, it felt like it was like it just confirmed it's like, you know how these characters haven't really had a chance to really be a character? Well, now they're less than just a character, they're just a moment for another character.
Yeah, which again...
And the fact that it was more really, it's not just that, it's more that it happened so rapid sequence like that, that it felt like, because when the first one happened halfway through the movie, you're like, oh man, they might just start like dropping randomly, but then it just kind of felt like a lot of times with the Marvel movies, I feel like they just kind of like, we need a big blowout battle, and during that blowout battle, they're just like, we got off that ante, and it felt like the Black Order dropping really just felt like it was being pulled into like, let's build the stakes of the battle and give the moments to these characters.
It would have been better if it was spaced, if the deaths were spaced out more.
Exactly, that's how I feel.
And that's honestly a larger point why I don't feel like none of this stuff matters in the movie. Why the movie stuff doesn't matter. So it's just like, okay, yeah. There were characters in general, so it's like
that was one of my least favorite parts of Black Panther, actually. Like the war at the end of Black Panther. I told my friends in the movie, I watched that movie, and if you had taken more like of the drawn out character argument between them, and like especially their moments at the end, and pulled that but removed a lot of the stuff in between that, I told my friends, if for like me, I guess just the way I like movies and narratives like that, if the movie had been T'Challa's rise to power, character shows up, brings radical new ideas, and is like, I demand a challenge for the king, and it ended with maybe more dialogue and like clash between those characters philosophically, and like undertones of like discord between different ideologies in Wakanda before, but if it ended with them fighting at the waterfall, that to me would have been a really strong, tight narrative.
It would have been.
I was like, that for me, it would have been a perfect like narrative about like tragic family like come to combat. And the only thing that I would miss between that big battle in the end is the like compelling combat of ideology, but I would have much rather seen that brought ahead of that fight as like actual debate and ideology between the people of Wakanda without feeling the need to make it into an explicit war.
Okay.
To me, that of almost all of them to me felt like the most artificial Marvel moment of, we need a big war at the end. To me, it felt like such an intimate story about like this betrayed family member has had like been seeking their revenge and developed this ideology, and
right
now they're coming back to exact it. And then to me, it just felt like that was just, that whole battle at the end just felt like them raising up the stakes for the third act. It felt really artificial to me. Like all the passion in those scenes to me, like besides like small character moments that you get with some of the characters, I think comes from the fights between T'Challa and Killmonger. Like, and to me, I just wish those fights had been condensed into another piece and take that conflict between those characters and make it a more tense like character interaction before that fight. Drop the war.
See, I love the war.
No, the war's. I like the war too.
I thought the war was great because it wasn't between CGI aliens. It was between clans and tribes that we've grown to know.
Yeah,
that is true. I like that. You know, that's a good aspect.
And the war rhinos.
Yeah,
of course that. Of course that. It's still.
There's another part. I just remember because when you were talking.
That is a good point. I didn't consider that.
I like what they did with Hulk in this movie because, like we said, like. When you read the comic, it's Silver Surfer who gets launched from Earth into the Sanctum Sanctorum and warns that Thanos is coming to replace that with Hulk. But even just the fact that Hulk will come out after he got his ass kicked by Thanos.
Yeah.
And it's not even the fact probably it's Marvel, but is that the reason why, or is it something else that we haven't figured out or haven't been shown yet? I'm fascinated with what might happen. It's also interesting
the idea that the Hulk himself is like, I like how he's becoming his own personality. He's both terrified and throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
What I think it's leading to, and what I'm excited to see, is I think because Banner is taking so much agency in terms of the fights, and he's for the first time he's wanting Hulk to come out, and they're kind of having this back and forth.
Yeah.
I think it's eventually going to lead to Intelligent Hulk. Where
I want to see the
Hulk is
Professor
gonna have
so bad.
Bruce
I was about to say, as
Banner's-
somebody who really wants to see the Professor.
Yeah.
I love that this
is
is
going to
all
be
happening,
Hulk
so-
with Bruce Banner's brain and his speech patterns, and
Really
I think
hope
that's
that
what we're going to
happens.
get in
Really
Avengers
hope
4.
And they've shown
Joe
in this.
Fix-It, the Professor, Maestro.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, if we get a Joe fucking fix it,
Okay.
Dude, if we get Maestro, I will take away everything I said about this podcast.
We need to see the Hulk fight the Rhino in a Santa outfit. It has to happen.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, we do.
But
Another positive. Again, as we get through these post-Stinger scenes, which I think are inherently bad, just because of the fact if it's good, if it's supposed to mean something, put it in the fucking movie properly. But Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
I like how
I'm
I
not
like
gonna
how
lie.
I like how Nick Fury got the beeper called and we see the logo and like
Great like space beeper.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. This is a failing of mine. I saw that logo show up and I was like, oh shit, Nova, and I was like, no.
Nah. See, I was hoping they would say it would be like now calling Carol Danvers. The logo
Something like
was
that.
fun.
The logo's fun, yeah.
The logo was
Yeah.
fun. I like how it was because like you can't go home and Google a logo. You can Google Carol Danvers.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have had both.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe, but I thought it was triumphant. And,
Yeah.
and
True.
like, oh fuck yes, especially because Feige's like, this is physically the strongest character in the universe, so let's our hero. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for it. I saw a trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and you know what? I'm excited for it, Toby.
No, it looks fun.
I am
It
too.
looks fun.
It looks fun.
It looks like the first one was like a trial.
I really like the first Ant-Man. It's a really fun movie.
Yeah, it's fun.
I liked it a lot more than a lot of other people did, just because I like heist movies. Two, I like the comedic elements of these movies a lot, and Paul Rudd is a delight to me. Dude's a national treasure to me.
People on Twitter
But-
people on film Twitter kept mentioning if the next movie is basically all Michael Pena explaining Infinity War, it would be amazing. I would
That would
watch
be
it.
great.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that I mentioned somebody saying like this would be an interesting. What if Ant-Man and the Wasp happens and it's like, oh, we have this heist to do. Halfway through, like they're about to execute their heist, and people just start fucking turning it down, and they're like, well, shit, something's gonna happen.
Easier.
And they're just like, well, I guess we've got to deal with this.
They're in the middle of the fight with Ghost, and Ghost vanishes, and they're like, oh, she disappeared. Oh wait, fuck, she disappeared.
I was like, Ghost?
Hey.
That disappearance she seemed a lot more distraught that time. She seemed to the other times.
And now
I don't feel well, Mr. Lang.
Oh god, that scene was so
That was
hard.
okay, yeah. No.
Because they also did a scene like that in the original Spider-Man where he's like, or like rather Homecoming, where he's crushed under all this shit, and you get the reminder. It's like, oh shit, this is like
Again, one of the famous moments
really
in comics history.
vulnerable, sad fucking moment.
Yeah,
And that it
listen,
was very similar.
It
in
didn't do
this
anything
one.
for me.
I can't blame you if in your mind you're just sitting there and you're like, this is a really nice little bit of acting, but
That's what it is. Yeah, that's all it felt to me. Like, hey,
yeah, but-
Holland's killing it. Holland's killing it. I like what Stark's doing. As far as nothing doesn't matter.
like, boy, it's gonna be a real weird conversation once he comes back. Like, remember when you died? You're like, oh no, I feel so bad.
Yeah.
This is actually unrelated to the movie, but something I did think about in terms of like timing, and it reminded me when you were talking about Captain Marvel. What you would call the opposite of a home run in terms of execution on a similar subject matter is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which showed up, shit the bed, and quietly died.
Yeah.
And
There was supposed to be like DLC and everything, and
yeah,
they're
it's
just
just
like, yeah, we're not.
like, I mean, even earlier this year they were just like, okay, here's all the games that are coming out in Evo. What about the Marvel vs. Capcom game that came out 6 months?
You're like,
Nah. Everybody in the FGC was like, well, that's
All right.
deader than dead.
And that's gone.
But the fact that if that game had come out like say now, like after or like around the build up to Infinity War and had more time to be polished, and your front person is Captain Marvel, who's the next big character.
Right.
I did see that. I was like, oh man, that probably would have been a much
Yeah,
better
yeah.
time for this
Yeah.
game.
We should also mention this movie has already outgrossed the entirety of Justice League already.
In about
What
2
a
days.
feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a feat.
Yeah, just
I mean, not
insane.
really when you think about how little Justice League made.
How little?
Believe
Again,
me, that was what
how
I was
little-
sarcastically
How
implying.
little it made, and again, how I keep talking, they pretty much made from the movie twice. And considering how much money they put into it, that's a shame.
It's Again, this is Justice League.
Yeah, this is Justice
League.
League.
This is the third Avengers movie.
Yeah. The last conversation I want to have as far as this goes.
Yeah, we gotta wrap this up here, Gwyneth.
Yeah.
I know it's your bedtime. I know you got your jade egg tight in there.
I know we talked about villains before because Thanos is in the Marvel movie universe. Thanos is kind of like up there.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the end all be all for the most part. Other villains we talked about were like Kang and Nautilus you can use as well. But two other villains I thought of they can use as well, which is one Mephisto.
Oh yeah.
Mephisto?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
he's pretty much the devil.
Oh, yeah, no,
sorry.
See, unfortunately, Mephisto is somewhat ruined for me because the only thing I know about Mephisto is the terrible Spider-Man arc with
That's
Mephisto.
oh dear Lord, that's all you know?
Oh, that's pretty rough. Yeah.
Oh shit, man.
Give
Go
me
read
back
literally
the
anything else.
95-year-old grandmother, and I'll trade my entire marriage with my wife.
Doctor
Right.
Strange. I don't know how to get a bullet out of a lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doctor Octopus.
We're not
He literally changed the brains.
We are not here to talk about one.
No,
Day.
we're not.
No, but just Mephisto as far as
That's a good idea.
That would be a great idea. Like you could bring Hell from Earth, and
then that would kinda go-
Strange and Thor are his two main villains.
I was gonna say that's going more into like the metaphysical realm of
Right.
Marvel, which they haven't really dived into.
Right, and
at all.
again, and another great villain is just staring brightness in the face, Scarlet Witch. You can do No More Mutants or House of M.
But see,
I didn't even think about
I
that.
didn't think about it until a couple days ago.
Yeah, this
Distraught off the death of Vision,
Yes.
thinking like, I don't get the point of anything anymore. If he can't live, if I can't have love, no one can have love. Something slips out.
No, this is
Okay,
Right? Exactly.
See, this is highly unlikely due to like how long it would they're still gonna take time to transfer licenses and all this shit. But
No, honestly, you don't really need the X-Men, but you could just do it straight up.
What I was also thinking is like you have Scarlet Witch here on the table. It's not unfeasible. You could end up with a reverse House of M here.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
hey, suddenly mutants exist.
Yeah, or you don't even have to do House of M. You can just Avengers Disassemble, where all this crazy shit happens to Avengers and they won't know why, and Scarlet Witch just went off her meds.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. So I don't know. I thought there'll be two great villains for the most
That's
part.
actually those are
Did
good
she
ideas.
get dusted?
No.
Scarlet
No,
Witch
she did. Yeah, she did. Sorry.
She did.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
So she is off the table until the
Until they bring her
reverse
back.
dusting happens.
Yeah, they'll bring it back.
But like,
Clean lady.
because I'm
Yeah.
thinking about like,
Dust.
I was thinking about like Secret War.
Secret Wars and
Secret
Again,
War
the Beyonders, or the
Yeah.
Beyonder, if you just want to use the one of them. Yeah, we talked about it as well before too.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. It's just like this to me seems like it is the end of something.
Right.
And
Oh, it definitely is.
it'll still be a conjoined universe, but I feel like this is like the big thing, and afterwards it's going to be like, okay, here's the contained sequels to Black Panther,
Yeah.
the contained sequels to Spidey. It's going to be less connected and less building towards something.
Right.
Because I think this is their swan song for what they set out to make, and they're just going to coast until I guess 2025.
Yeah.
Dear Lord, that is exhausting to just think about.
I know how I feel.
Honestly, I feel like these Marvel things are more exhausting in like when you hear about them at first. Like you're just like, oh god, they're gonna do that. But then when it comes to like actually seeing them, you're like, eh.
Well, I remember
It's not that hard.
they're like Avengers is gonna be in 2012, and I'm like, 2012? I'm gonna be ancient. And now I'm like, fuck you, 23-year-old Steve.
Also, speaking of Scarlet Witch, what happened to her accent?
The first scene? I don't know.
It's almost
That
as
was-
if they gave up.
Basically,
It's never been good.
No, it's never been good. But it's like at least she had it.
She had it.
Now she's talking like Elizabeth
The
Olsen.
first scene.
I mean, now they have
she was like,
they also have the lazy excuse of just like, you've been with the Avengers long enough. It just goes
probably.
away.
I didn't care.
No, I didn't care. Trust me, I don't care either. I just remember whenever I first heard speak, like, oh, we're not even doing the accent anymore.
not gonna do the accent?
I mean,
Alright.
there's somebody out there that's just like, well, the character's just fucking ruined.
Just rips down that Scarlet Witch poster.
I like how Scarlet. No, I like how Elizabeth
Unfollows
Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen on Twitter.
I like how Elizabeth Olsen said like she doesn't like how much cleavage she shows off in her costume now. I was like, oh, honey, you're glad you're glad you don't have the original costume then.
Yeah. Where it's just like a bodice.
Yeah. And what was it? What was it? Kurt Busiek who said on record like she's not wearing underwear.
Sure.
I think it was something like
believe
that.
that too.
Yes.
She did show off a bit of cleavage in this film.
Yeah.
So It's not a practical superhero outfit.
For God, no. And
It's just like a shirt and a skirt.
And that's saying something for superhero costumes.
Yes. Because looking at Vision, I'm like, bro.
Vision is so interesting because he actually looks like a Golden Age comic character.
He does.
Yeah.
And it just looks so silly compared to everything
It looks
else.
so silly.
But
And it's hilarious how much Paul Bettany hates that, man.
It's
I
also
think
really
that's
weird.
why I think Vision's straight up dead, because
I
Paul
do
Bettany's
too.
like,
Nope.
nah.
Do the same thing for Hugo Weaving. Get someone else. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm dead. You
Hugo
killed me.
Weaving, I refuse to come back for Red Skull, but I will be Vision.
It was just the nose prosthetic that was bothering
was
me.
just
I'll
nose
come
prosthetic.
back for Vision, sure.
How could I pass up the chance to be the most memorable Marvel character that's ever
the
existed?
most memorable android.
Tom King's series, though, was amazing.
I'm gonna make this my
It is
Star
amazing.
Lord.
That's very true.
So that's true. Final thoughts. I will just say the movie's fine. It accomplishes what it does. I probably will never see it again. Except in small parts, like clips here and there. The whole thing, I know.
I will say the exact opposite. It felt earned to me. I felt rewarded for having starting this. I was thinking back the other day how when I was super stoked for Iron Man, when that came out a decade ago, tomorrow, I remember people...
Tomorrow when we're recording this, not when you hear it.
Yeah, May 2nd. It's... Anyway. But I had people coming up to me being like, is this based on the Black Sabbath song? Is this a prequel to Iron Giant? It was fascinating. Like, back then it was like, oh, well, yeah, he's B tier at best.
I was gonna say,
in
people
pop
forget
culture.
that he was not like the main.
but
end
now
all
And
be
again,
all.
not only that at the time. That was right after Civil War. So he was like...
Yeah. No,
Nobody
he
was like an Iron Man.
No, yeah.
But so the people who even like knew who he was like, he's getting a movie, and now he is the face of Marvel.
Yeah.
Not Spidey, not Wolverine. Iron Man is the face of Marvel. That blows my mind.
Yeah, no,
and
it is
it's
astonishing.
really interesting because back, people didn't know who Iron Man was.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I think if you are a fan of these movies, you're gonna leave feeling, you know that there's more movies, but I feel like the ending, it's manipulative in the best ways.
It is. No, that's true.
That is, I agree.
Yeah, no, that is very true.
It's impressive that you feel anything, knowing that they're all coming back.
Right.
I think it's a great juggling act. I think the action is really well done. The characters you wouldn't think would be standouts are standouts. If you're a Cap fan, if you're a Black Panther fan, you might be a little disappointed.
Yeah, I don't because they're
There are
filming
going to be
this.
a lot of people that have come fresh off of like the phenomenon that was Black Panther,
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
going to be really fucking disappointed.
That's the thing because they're filming this as soon as Black Panther finished, so it's
Yeah.
like they didn't realize how popular, how phenomenal
Yeah.
Black Panther was going to be, and you can really tell in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, we know Wakanda's here, but it's just like, no, man, we want to see more Black Panther. We want to see more Shuri.
Yeah, well, for sure. But the fact that she was in it was great.
Yeah.
She had a couple
That's
of
true.
great one-liners, kind of knocking people down a
Yeah.
couple things.
For how bad it could have been with how recently it came out after Black Panther, and then being like, Black Panther's gonna be,
Well,
it's gonna
even-
be like Doctor Strange.
Right.
The other
That'll be
like,
fine.
yeah, like as much as they clearly did kind of underwhelm how under anticipate how successful it would be. It's at least nice that they didn't just like not give a shit. Like it's a prominent set
It is.
piece of the movie.
Very much
But
so.
And that's
Even-
more than most other franchises.
Very
Even
much so.
giving Okoye
Yeah.
and M'Baku like moments to shine. Not a lot, not as much as any audience member would want, but like the fact that M'Baku is in this movie at all.
Yeah.
He didn't have to be.
Right.
He's very reclusive in but they threw him in here and
He didn't disappear.
he didn't disappear,
He didn't
which
disappear.
I'm stoked for.
Yeah.
I also
because it makes
really
me wonder
loved-
who's going to take up the mantle.
Of the Black Panther.
I was going to
Well,
ask.
he's
I was going to ask you guys.
That's
do
a
you-
rewarding one to me.
Is Shuri gone?
I don't
Shuri
think
is
she's
not.
gone. I think they would have shown.
I think they would've showed it too, yeah. I'm just
I
asking.
think that's one of the ones they'd be afraid to like. People, they'd be like, man, this would just really bump people out.
Like
Right.
maybe she did, and they're like, we're just gonna cut that scene out.
Yeah, now.
Shuri
Yeah.
is fucking awesome.
Yes, she
and
is.
Everyone loves her.
And again, if this, again, no offense to Chadwick Boseman or T'Challa, but if he's gone and this makes the way for Shuri to be Black Panther,
I'll take it.
I'll take it too.
any of
realistically-
those three prominent characters that are still there, I'd be happy if any
of them. I was gonna say,
I
that's-
think I would rather see him become his own character than Black Panther, if only for just sheer stature.
Yeah.
Like he'd be a really, I mean, it'd be an interesting one, but he'd be a very strange change of pace in terms of just like, that guy is a fucking brick shit house.
Yeah.
And it's very different from the Black Panther we've seen so far, but it would also be interesting.
Yeah, in the comics, like I know I like the run personally, but I know the run is kind of decisive. But there was a point where after Doom War, Shuri took over for Black Panther.
Shuri's also a lot older in the comics.
But, very true, yes. But Shuri took over for Black Panther, and then Daredevil after Shadowland, he went away, and then Black Panther became Daredevil. So there is that. Our comic's great. If you want to go nuts,
I like how they treat the different positions as like temp jobs sometimes.
Yeah, basically.
Well, like how fucking Hawkeye was Daredevil for a second.
Yeah.
In Civil War. That's fun.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Final thoughts on the movie, Joe?
I definitely think it had a lot of like weak moments, much less than I think almost anybody was anticipating. It's just like, as so many MCU things tend to be, this is just a crash course on like how to do all this shit right, and simultaneously what I hope a lot of people take as a sign of, don't try to do this. I really
or don't try to do it without putting the work in.
Exactly. What I hope, like, if this could give any message to other people, I hope, like, other studios who, like, I'll be honest, they're not going to realize, but that I would hope they would at least see how much fucking effort it takes to get this, and that a cinematic universe of this depth and, like, length is not an easy cash grab. It takes fucking effort to make that shit work, but I thought it worked out really well. The low points were not that low, but they were just a few things I thought were like underwhelming, like characters not really wowing, moments. I feel like a couple of the interactions, they just didn't know how to vary things up. I felt like when they had the Thanos being this unstoppable threat, they just had too many scenes that they didn't know how to end, and they ended up going back to that well just one too many times. Like, the fact that it's 5 times with 5 different characters is like, and that one of them gets it such a built-up, like, Doctor Strange flat out says to the camera, if the time comes, fuck you, fuck both of you, I don't give a shit, I'll let Spider-Man die, I'll let Iron Man die, I'm not letting him get this, and for him to give it up, that would have been a much stronger moment if we didn't see that 3 times already.
Right.
And still, I really enjoyed all of it. I personally am probably going to see it again. The thing I love the most about it, I like that it recognizes itself as a comic book movie, I think more strongly than even a lot of the MCU stuff has so far.
Very much so, yeah.
Especially in the fact that it recognizes, I think, one of the things that some people could say is negative about it, but one of the things that people would say is interesting about it, how transitory it is. It's like, we know that this is not going to be a standalone, like, piece of it's not going to be a film that stands out on its own for all time. Like, it's not going to be a standalone film that you're just like, this is a phenomenal film. They just understood that, okay, this is a battle between, like, a massive villain, and we're just going to follow that throughout the whole thing. And it was just one long battle the entire universe was having with one person. And I thought that was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So Thanos will return, and so will we. Joe,
so
thanks
will we.
Absolutely, this was really fun.
Do you have anything to plug, or where we can find you on the internet, or?
Yeah, sure. I would actually plug a YouTube series called Jam Pack, Jampack, and that JAM is capitalized. It is a show that I do with other OU alumni, Adam Hicken and Matthew Lunday. It's one of those gameplay shows where people play games, they do commentary at the same time. We're having fun. We're not rocking the boat in terms of like, this is an idea that's been done before, but we're doing it in our way. We're having fun.
You just played Shantae.
We just did. We just finished Shantae.
How great is Shantae, by the way?
Fantastic.
Love me some Shantae.
Before we even started, I was like, I want to play Shantae. I love platformers. Shantae is short, super fun. It's something we can get through. So yeah, Shantae is a great place. And if you're interested in watching and you don't know where to start, every Friday we do like a one-off thing where we play, like, usually it ends up being a fighting game, but we do like a one-off episode that's contained. It's its own thing. So if you're interested, check in at some of those. To coincide with the release of this movie, literally last week we just released us playing Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So check that stuff out. It's a fun time. And we do Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, maybe more someday. We'll see.
Right on.
Where can they find you on Twitter?
Well, Toby, they can find me at Steve Killius, and I'd like to plug a podcast I do called I Hope Gwyneth is Listening, in which I talk to Gwyneth with my friend Toby, Gwyneth Paltrow, Academy Award-winning nominated actress.
Oh, that's the Gwyneth we've been talking about this whole time.
Yes.
Holy shit, we didn't give you the premise of... Okay, so what we do is we talk to Gwyneth Paltrow, founder of Goop.
Founder of Goo, yes.
No.
Mother of Apple.
Yes.
Ex-husband of Coldplay frontrunner
Chris Martin.
Chris
Yes. Yes, and she's engaged right now, so happy for that, Gwyneth.
We're very proud of you,
Yeah.
Gwyneth.
You can reach me on Twitter
Do many
at...
good things.
Yes, you can reach me on Twitter at SpaceLionToby, and this has been the... sorry, go ahead, please.
Real quick,
Yeah.
follow us on Twitter. I believe it is Jam Pack Show. I will double check this very briefly. You can also follow me on Twitter at the handle Big Ol' Worm. Worm is in like a dragon. BIGOLWYRM. And you can follow Jam Pack on Twitter at Jam Pack Show, JAMPACSHOW, Pack and Show, first letter capitalized. As always, JAM, Joe, Adam, Matt. Those 3 letters are capitalized.
Oh.
And yeah, that's where it comes from. That's why we start every show with I'm Joe, I'm Adam, I'm Matt. And
It's been a long show, Gwyneth.
You can find us on Twitter at Jam Pack Show, capital J, capital A, capital M, capital P, capital S, and on Facebook I think also as like Jam Pack Show. And maybe it's just because like I'm subscribed, but if you Google Jam Pack, you'll probably see it. The logo is like a jam jar with headphones.
Nice.
Come on back for more Jam Pack, please.
I like to think Gwyneth's just like, come on, Steve, get it together. I got that.
Oh my god. I didn't
She's
even
like,
fucking
really, come
know
on. He
these
just said their
people.
names.
Right. This has been We Hope Gwyneth is Listening podcast. Thanks for listening. We hope we talk to you guys soon.
Night, Gwyneth.
Bye, Gwyneth.